Chapter 45-64. Master. That woman says pitifully, this concubine really does not know if you masters need to eat. However, this concubine thinks that since you are a human, you should eat. Last night on the sea was truly dangerous. Tuakeo's father did not allow this concubine to come out. This concubine thought about it, and felt that if this concubine did not express her apology, tisk. Shin Kong is truly furious. That magic wand of his falls a few more times, but in the end, it does not fall. He holds back his killing intent and shouts, "This daddy has already seen your true form. Stop pretending. If not for the fact that you know that my master is easily swayed, how would you dare to come over? If you still do not leave." Disciple. Chuanzang has already woken up. Looking over, he says unhappily, "What is going on? Does this female benefactor have something to say?" Damn Shin Han. Shin Kong says angrily, "Why are you still not hurrying to protect master?" Achoo. Shin Han sneezes on a pile of firewood that looks like a dried tree trunk. She flips over and says, "Second senior brother, aren't you being too careful? Now that you have the reputation of eldest senior brother, which little demon would come looking for trouble?" After getting up, Chuanzang tidies up his kasaya. Beside him, Longma Jinfeng has already come over and says with a smile, "Master, this is Tuakeo's mother. She said that she is here to deliver the pancakes to master to express her misunderstanding of us yesterday, Amitba." Chuanzang reveals a smile. Putting his palms together, he walks over to where Jin Kong is blocking that woman and says, "Female benefactor is too polite. We are all monks and do not eat meat. Please take this pancake back." As long as female benefactor is willing, this poor monk is already very grateful. "Don't worry, master." That woman says with a smile, "Tuakeo has already said that master looks like a monk." This concubine did not use any meat oil when making the pancakes. "Master." Shin Kong is anxious. His figure flashes back slightly as he calls out, "Don't come over. This is a demon." "Ah. Why is it a demon again?" Chuanzang is startled. He unconsciously stands there and looks for a moment in disbelief. The woman obediently placed the basket on the ground and said, "Master, if you have any doubts, I won't go over. After you've eaten the pancakes, you can leave the basket here. I'll ask Xiao Chao to come and get it, Jinkong." Chuanzang grumbled, "This woman is clearly the mother of the grass, how could she be, humph?" Shin Kong snorted coldly. He turned to the side and said, "Master, you're the one courting death. It has nothing to do with me. Jinhan, Jinfeng, just wait for Jinjie to come back and roast you." Seeing that Jin Kong had moved aside, the woman was overjoyed. However, just as she was about to take a step forward, Jin Kong's demonic wand struck down from the sky. This strike was truly strange, and it was extremely powerful. The woman wanted to dodge, but she was completely enveloped by the wind generated by the demonic wand. There was no way for her to dodge. Paw. With a muffled sound, the woman's head and upper body were shattered. She died on the spot without even a scream. Chuanzang was startled. He looked at Jin Kong in disbelief. Then, he looked at the woman who was smashed into meat paste. In an instant, an indescribable anger arose in his heart. Previously, Jin Kong had killed many demons, including some Taoist cultivators. However, those demons and cultivators didn't die such a miserable death. Moreover, when he looked at the basket beside the woman's corpse, Chuanzang couldn't help but think of the fisherwoman he met when he first came to the hidden immortal continent from the Western Paradise, as well as the dry rations her family gave him. That fisherwoman wasn't here. After more than 200 years, she should have died long ago. However, how similar were the two fisherwomen? They were both kind to others, especially Xiao Chao's mother. Not only did she not blame Jinjia for his evil deeds yesterday, she even brought pancakes. Not only did Jin Kong not understand her intentions, he even killed her with a single strike. If she was a demon, why didn't she fight Jin Kong? Why was she beaten to death for no reason? Seeing the change in Chuanzong's expression, Jin Kong understood Chuanzong's anger. He raised his magic wand and swept it across the woman's corpse a few times. He pulled out a scarlet insect that was more than a foot long and as thick as a thumb. At this moment, the insect's surface was cracked and its insides had been smashed into paste by the magic wand. Jin Kong said coldly, "Master, this is called a control insect. It usually burrows into the 7 orifices of humans or demons and is controlled by it. The larva of this insect has the strength of a first-grade elemental power. The adult should have the strength of a 3rd or 4th-grade elemental power. It flies like lightning. If this disciple let it fly another half a foot, Master would have already died." After saying that, Jin Kong placed the magic wand on his shoulder. He ignored Chuanzong and landed on a distant hill. He looked up at the rising sun in the east with a yearning expression. You. Chuanzong looked at Jin Kong's departing figure and then looked at the woman's corpse on the ground. He was so angry that he couldn't speak. After a moment, Chuanzong calmed down and chanted the rebirth mantra. He began to clean up the flesh on the ground. Jin Kong looked at him coldly. Just as he was about to raise his hand and release a fire art, Shin Han jumped out from the pile of firewood and flew to Chuanzong's side. She said respectfully, "Master, disciple is here to help you." Bootlicker. Shin Kong sneered and looked to the east. It seemed to be where the Fortune Dao Palace was located. Shin Kong was a fire ape. Before he was suppressed on the Dawn Rain continent, he killed countless humans and demons. Even after he escaped, he killed many humans and demons. In his eyes, there wasn't much difference between humans and demons. There was no difference between him killing a human and a demon. However, he didn't know how big of an impact it was for Chuanzong to kill a human in front of him. Moreover, Shin Kong protected Chuanzong with all his might. He was afraid that Chuanzong would suffer a single injury. However, he didn't have any special respect for Chuanzong. He also didn't really treat Chuanzong as his master. He was only fulfilling the trust his true master had given him. While Chuanzong was an esteemed monk, he was also a human. Seeing that Jin Kong had killed someone, he immediately stood to the side and pretended to be cultured. Even though he knew that what Jin Kong said and did was not wrong, the anger in his heart would not dissipate so easily. Unfortunately, the matter was far from over. Before Chuanzong and Jin Han could clean up the woman's corpse, 2 more people hurriedly appeared in the small fishing village. The person in front was a fisherman with messy hair and some white hair on his temples. The fisherman was pulling a short girl. Wasn't that Tuo Chao? Tuo Chao struggled with all her strength and didn't want to come over. However, the fisherman's face was ashen and he looked very angry. He pulled Tuo Chao and walked over. "Ha!" Dragon Horse Shin Feng laughed and said, "My beloved second senior brother, look, you've caused a disaster. You killed his mother and wife, and now he's dragging his family to look for you. Let's see what you're going to give him as a wife. How about this, you stay in this small fishing village and sell yourself to Tuo Chao's father as a worker. When you've earned enough copper coins to give Tuo Chao another mother, you can chase after him, and continue to pray for scriptures in paradise." TSK. Shin Kong was enraged. He revealed the ferocity of a fire ape at Dragon Horse Shin Feng as he shouted, "Damn it, if you dare to say another word, do you believe that I won't beat you to death with my staff?" Eldest senior brother. Dragon Horse Shin Feng habitually shouted. However, just as he shouted, he realized that Jin Jia had gone to hide. He hurriedly shut his mouth and hid his horse face under his buttocks. Quick, quick! Jin Han naturally also saw Tuo Chao. He hurriedly raised his hand and flames appeared between his fingers. He said, "Master, please let this disciple clean up this mess, no need." Chuanzong shook his head. This matter must be explained to Tuo Chao and her father. After all, this woman is their relative. They should know. Whether they believe it or not, that's their problem. They are mortals. Jin Han said helplessly, "How can they believe it? Amitabha, your master is also a mortal." Chuanzong chanted Buddha's name. Whether they want to beat or scold, it's up to them. Master. The fisherman approached and saluted from afar. My wife just disappeared. I heard from my daughter that she was baking pancakes early in the morning. I didn't see her. Jin Han waved his hand impatiently. What does your wife baking pancakes have to do with us? Ah. Isn't this my family's bamboo basket? The man originally wanted to explain with a smile. However, he inadvertently glanced around and immediately saw the bamboo basket by the side of the road. When he looked to the side, he saw clothes that were not completely buried. Mother. Tuo Chao struggled to hide behind her father. However, when she saw the familiar clothes by the side of the road, how could she endure it? She immediately pulled her hand out of her father's hand and rushed to the side of the road. As she ran, tears from the corner of her eyes flowed down her cheeks and fell into the air. Sigh, Amitabha. Chuanzong sighed and walked a few steps forward. He clasped his hands together and said, Young benefactor, master, be careful. Jin Han, who was at the side, was also moved. She hurriedly stood in front of Chuanzong and reminded him. Mother. Tuo Chao ran too hastily and fell to the ground. Although there was a lot of sand around the fishing village, Tuo Chao's knees and elbows were still scratched and blood flowed out. Get out of the way. Chuanzong was anxious. He pushed Jin Han and went around to help Tuo Chao up. Jin Han hesitated and turned to look at Jin Kong. Jin Kong was not paying attention to them at all. He was only squinting his eyes and looking at the sun. Jin Han understood that although Jin Kong was angry, she would definitely not stay out of the matter and let Chuanzong die. Jin Kong must have seen that Tuo Chao and her father were not controlled by the control bug. Therefore, Jin Han only took a few steps forward and was on guard. She did not stop Chuanzong. Chapter 45-65. To Chuanzong's surprise, even though Mo Chao's body was scratched, she was very agile. She rolled on the ground and immediately got up. Ignoring Chuanzong, she pounced towards the blood-stained clothes on the ground. My wife. The man also realized what happened. His face was filled with sorrow as he quickened his steps and followed behind Mo Chao. Chuanzong was very embarrassed. He took a deep breath and walked over. Benefactor, please listen to this poor monk's explanation. You. The man suddenly sped up and shouted, You killed my wife. You have to pay for my wife's death with your life, oh no. Seeing the man's strange behavior, Jin Han was shocked. He quickly opened his mouth and was about to spit out a mouthful of sword qi. However, at this moment, Chuanzong was standing in front of him. Moreover, the fisherman had already spat out black gas from his nostrils. A black light like a control insect appeared in the black gas. Jin Han's figure flashed. Just as she dodged Chuanzong's attack, the sword qi in his mouth had already been spat out. At this moment, there was another thunderous sound. Kill. A rolling shadow of a staff swept past Chuanzong's head. The powerful wave of qi not only pushed Chuanzong to the ground, but even Jin Han's figure staggered a few times and almost fell down. Under such a powerful staff shadow, the control insect was already smashed into several pieces. As for the fisherman behind the control insect, he was not spared either. Where the staff shadow disappeared, his upper body was also smashed into meat paste. Ah! Father! Mo Chow had just pounced in front of her mother's corpse. Before she could smell the familiar scent on her mother's clothes, she heard another sound behind her. She naturally turned around and saw her father, being smashed into pieces by a magic staff. Although Little Grass was a strong girl, she was still young. She only cried out once before she fainted. Shen Kong. Chuanzong stood up from the ground. His pillar hat was already crooked. He did not care about his clothes and shouted, "What are you doing?" "Ah! Why did you kill someone again?" Shen Kong's figure appeared in midair. He looked at Chuanzong and his eyes flashed with golden light. He looked at the fainted Mo Chow and seemed to be thinking about something. "Don't you dare!" Chuanzong hurriedly stood in front of Mo Chow and said, "If you kill someone again, kill me first. She doesn't have a control insect on her. Why would I kill her?" Shen Kong sneered and pointed at the control insect corpse on the ground with his magic staff. "Take a look for yourself. Think about it. Didn't the black gas fly out of this person's nose?" With that, Shen Kong did not say anything else and he flew towards the fishing village. Although Shen Kong didn't say what they were going to do, Shen Han understood that there was definitely something wrong with this fishing village, since control bugs kept appearing. So, Shen Han shouted, "Shen, be on your guard. Don't let the monster." Yes. Without Jin Jia and Shen Kong, Shen Feng was very diligent. With a cry, he hurriedly poked his head out from under his butt and looked around. He even cried out, "Damn it, where did all the merit points from the Immortal Palace go? I must report them to Immortal Emperor Go Qin for being absent from work." Amitba. Chuanzong's mouth was filled with bitterness. He squatted down and picked up Mo Chow's thin and weak body. He was really worried about how to explain himself after Mo Chow woke up. "Master," Shen Han said softly, "these two control insects are really repulsive. The Pegasus only controlled the two adults and did not control the little girl. Second senior brother killed these two adults, and both of them were seen by this little girl. We have no way to explain ourselves. Why don't we kill the little girl as well?" "Forget it." Amitba. Disgust appeared in Chuanzong's eyes. He glanced at Shen Han and said, "Shen Han, you are now I's disciple and not a Confucian general. Don't break the precepts." "Humph." Shen Han coldly snorted and didn't say anything else. She raised her hand and a cluster of flames appeared, burning the corpses of the fisherman and the woman on the ground, as well as the pancakes in the bamboo basket. Chuanzong opened his mouth and wanted to stop her. However, he swallowed the words that were about to come out of his mouth. In less than 5 minutes, Shen Kong flew out of the fishing village. Chuanzong hurriedly asked, "Amitba, Shen Kong, don't commit any more crimes. Why would I be so fierce for no reason?" Shen Kong waved his hand impatiently and said, "If there weren't any monsters, I wouldn't have bothered to make a move." With that, Shen Kong gloomily muttered to himself, "This is strange. If there aren't any monsters in the fishing village, why would two control insects appear out of nowhere?" Shen Han glanced at Shen Kong and said indifferently, "You killed people and didn't clean them up. Instead, you asked me to clean them up for you. Now that I've cleaned them up, you can explain to Mo Chow yourself." With that, Shen Han looked at the fishing village in the distance. At this moment, some fishermen had already poked their heads out, but none of them had the courage to come out. "Humph, what's there to explain?" Shen Kong sneered. "I only care about protecting Master. I don't care about anything else." If you want an explanation, go and do it yourselves. Mother, father. At this moment, Mo Chow woke up. She called out and sobbed softly. Her small figure shrank into Chuanzong's embrace as she avoided Jin Kong with a fearful gaze. A little girl had her family destroyed in just one morning. No matter how mature she was, she couldn't accept it. She even thought that she was dreaming. Amitabha. Chuanzong looked at the unconcerned Jin Kong and said, Master is hungry. Mo Chow is also hungry. Go and ask for some karma. Yes, Master. Jin Kong didn't say anything else. He looked at the fishing village in the distance and urged the cloud to fly away. Fuck. Chuanzong looked at the sky in the distance. The sun was already high up in the sky. He took a deep breath. There was a hint of nostalgia and sadness in his voice as he said, When I was still a child, I also had a father and mother at home. They loved me very much. However, one day, when Zhang Qingshao massacred Yellow Flower Ridge, Jiang Luer was still young. Xiao Hua originally thought that Jiang Luer might not know the truth. However, Jiang Luer clearly knew what happened that day. Although he didn't know who Jiang Luer learned the truth from, or if he saw it with his own eyes, he could hear from Chuanzong's mouth that Chuanzong's knowledge and the truth were somewhat different. However, Xiao Hua wasn't here. Only Mo Chow, Jin Han, and Longma Jinfeng were listening at the side. Jin Han and Longma Jinfeng wanted to know Chuanzong's background from Chuanzong. Mo Chow sympathized with Chuanzong's experience. No one knew how serious the difference was. When Jin Kong slowly flew back with a bamboo basket in his hand, Mo Chow's eyes were still filled with sorrow and hatred. However, the tears in her eyes had already dried up. Children from poor families were always able to adapt to life very quickly. They knew what to do when and what to do. Her parents had already been killed. What she needed to do now was to protect herself and tenaciously survive. Jin Kong placed the bamboo basket in front of Chuanzong. After hesitating for a moment, he said, Master, I got this from the town in front. Please take a look and see if it's of any use. Chuanzong nodded and didn't answer. He removed the lining cloth on the bamboo basket and saw that there were some date cakes and other things that looked very pretty. A burst of heat and fragrance floated from the bamboo basket. Chuanzong didn't feel anything, but Mo Chow's stomach rumbled. Chuanzong picked up a date cake and placed it next to Mo Chow's mouth. He said kindly, You eat. Master, eat first. Mo Chow raised his hand and pushed it to Chuanzong's mouth without hesitation. Master has been enlightening me for a long time. I'm sure you're already hungry. Okay. Chuanzong saw that Mo Chow was so sensible and felt a little guilty. He picked up another piece and gave it to Mo Chow. Let's eat together. At this moment, Chuanzong didn't look like a monk at all. He was no different from a kind big brother. Mo Chow grinned and forced a smile. Okay, Master. After Mo Chow wolfed down the date cake, Chuanzong slowly ate a few mouthfuls. Before Chuanzong could do anything, Jin Kong flicked his finger and a jujube cake flew out of the basket and landed in Liao Chao's hand. Liao Chao was startled and its small body shrank back into Chuanzong's kasaya. Jin Kong looked at Mo Chow's fearful eyes and said faintly, Master, disciple has thought about it on the way here. Disciple has gone a little overboard today. However, disciple was only trying to protect Master. The situation was urgent. Disciple doesn't know what you're thinking. However, since it has already happened, it's useless for disciple to say anything. Master, do as you see fit. After saying that, Jin Kong's figure flashed and landed on the hillside. He no longer paid attention to Chuanzong. Amitabha. Seeing that Jin Kong was remorseful but his mouth was still unyielding, Chuanzang chanted Buddha's name. He couldn't eat the remaining date cake. Master, hurry up and eat. Chuanzang Kusama put down the date cake and hurriedly said, eat until you're full so that you can go on your way. You eat. Chuanzang placed the date cake back into the bamboo basket and forced a smile. When you're done eating, this monk will send you home. Oh right, who else is in your family? At the mention of family, Mo Chao's small mouth twitched again. Tears fell from his eyes and he sobbed as he replied, there's no one else in my family, young benefactor, do you have any relatives in the village? Chuanzang felt bitter and asked again. However, before Mo Chao could reply, Jin Kong, who was sitting on the hillside, suddenly jumped up from the ground. He waved the magic wand in his hand and hurriedly said, damn it, there's no end to this. You too, hurry up and protect Master. Shen Han was also shocked. He hurriedly flew over from afar and waved the weapon in his hand. His eyes flashed as he looked in the direction where Jin Kong was facing. Chapter 45-66. Dragon Horse Shin Feng was as lazy as before. However, he also turned around to look, wanting to know which shameless demon or Taoist cultivator had come to court death this time. However, when they saw the demon flying over from afar, they couldn't help but look at each other in dismay. This was because another identical Jin Kong was carrying a peach tree on his shoulder and stepping on a demon cloud. He had a gloomy expression on his face as he flew back. The second Jin Kong was clearly a little absent-minded and didn't release his origin will to investigate. Instead, the first Jin Kong rushed into the sky and roared furiously, damned demon. You actually dared to transform into my appearance and come over. See if I don't kill you. Ah. Jin Kong shuddered and looked in disbelief at the Jin Kong who looked exactly like him standing in front of him. He hurriedly shouted, Master. When the second Jin Kong saw that Chunzong was safe and sound, he threw the peach tree on the ground and roared furiously, damned demon, you actually dared to transform into my appearance and come over. See if I don't kill you. When the second Jin Kong finished speaking, he was stunned. Not only were his words exactly the same as the first Jin Kong, his tone was also exactly the same. Even he himself couldn't tell the difference. Demon, hit as usual. The first Jin Kong roared and waved his magic wand at the second Jin Kong. The second Jin Kong was also furious. He roared and waved his magic wand, demon, hit as usual. Oh my, there are actually two second senior brothers. Dragon Horse Shinfeng laughed and said, which monster race is this? Actually transforming into a fire ape. Is he really not afraid of death? Then, Dragon Horse Shinfeng released his origin will and swept it across the two Jin Kongs. Hee, interesting. Shen Han sneered. Which great sage wants to pluck the peaches this time? Did he get the approval of the Immortal Palace and the Thunder Monastery? Naturally, Jin Han sneered and, like Dragon Horse Shinfeng, used the clear eyes technique to look at the two Jin Kongs. The dragon and the human were fine, but after looking at each other for a while, their expressions changed greatly. The two of them looked at each other with fear in their eyes. Neither of them dared to say another word. That was because the two Jin Kongs fighting before him not only had the same magic wand and the same techniques, even their strength was exactly the same. In fact, the two Jin Kongs couldn't even be distinguished by the clear vision light and origin sense. However, the dragon and man pondered for a moment and immediately understood that there was definitely something wrong with Jin Kong, who had returned earlier. Because it was impossible for the previous Jin Kong to give in. It was even more impossible for him to have come from the town to beg for alms. Only the Jin Kong who came back later, the one who followed his temper and brought back from a peach tree in the mountains, could be the real Jin Kong. But now, the two Jin Kongs were fighting. Who knew which one was the Jin Kong that returned first and which one was the Jin Kong that came later? Moreover, when they thought about the control worm that appeared in the fishing village and the grass in Chun Zhang's arms, Jin Han and the dragon horse Jin Feng shuddered. The trap that they had set for Jin Kong was definitely not small. A demon with such thoughts and the ability to transform into Jin Kong's appearance was definitely not someone they could deal with. Moreover, the sutra seeking extreme bliss had already reached its end after 200 years of suffering. Which demon would dare to come over and blatantly pluck the peaches at this time? If they didn't have a powerful background, Jin Han and the dragon horse Jin Feng wouldn't believe it even if they were beaten to death. Shrinking their necks, the dragon and man seemed to have felt a cold wind blowing on their bodies and felt somewhat cold. You two deserve to die. At this moment, one of the Jin Kong shouted, "Why aren't you coming over to help me? Come over quickly." The other Jin Kong also shouted, "This demon is troublesome. His strength is actually on par with me. If you don't come over to help, I won't be able to kill him." Hearing this, Jin Han immediately jumped into the air and opened his mouth. Sword chi was about to fly out, but the flying sword only flew out half a chi. Jin Han was once again in a difficult position and said in a low voice, "Second senior brother, this little brother really wants to help you. But this little brother doesn't know which one is the real you." The dragon horse Jin Feng also jumped into the air and said in agreement, that's right. This little brother doesn't know which one is the real one. How can I help you? If I help this demon kill second senior brother, wouldn't our sutra seeking extreme bliss become a joke? Saying this, the dragon horse Jin Feng turned his head and shouted, "Don't you think so, master?" Chun Zhang was naturally not stupid. The moment he saw the two Jin Kongs, he immediately understood what was going on. However, he was currently the same as Jin Han and the dragon horse Jin Feng, dumbfounded. Because he was unable to differentiate the two Jin Kongs. Which one was the real Jin Kong? He is the fake Jin Kong. One Jin Kong shouted. He opened his mouth and spat out a flame. The other Jin Kong also shouted, "You are the fake Jin Kong." Saying this, he also spat out a flame. The strangest thing was that when the two flames collided, they were extinguished at the same time. You dare to secretly learn this daddy's magic? See if this daddy doesn't beat you to death. One Jin Kong shouted and raised his magic wand again, while the other Jin Kong also shouted, "You dare to secretly learn this daddy's magic? See if this daddy doesn't beat you to death." The two Jin Kongs fought in the air again. Seeing that they didn't need to help, Jin Han and the dragon horse Jin Feng cleverly descended from the air. Jin Han held the crescent moon spade and stood on one side of Chun Zhang, while the dragon horse Jin Feng swung his tail and stood on the other side. They seemed to be rather loyal. The two Jin Kongs fought from the sky to the ground, then from the ground to the sea, and then from the sea to the sky. Not only were the winds and clouds surging in the sky, even the calm surface of the sea was gradually surging with huge waves. The two Jin Kongs were still unable to determine the victor. Seeing the scorching sun in the sky, the two Jin Kongs knew that there wouldn't be any conclusion if they continued to fight like this. They both waved their magic wands and descended from the sky. However, the two Jin Kongs seemed to have a tacit understanding and landed a bit far from Chun Zhang. The two Jin Kongs stabbed their magic wands towards the ground and shouted, "Master, quickly tell us, which one is the fake Jin Kong and which one is the real Jin Kong?" Chun Zhang helplessly looked at the two identical Jin Kongs and said, "Master's eyes are mortal, how can I tell them apart?" Saying this, Chun Zhang turned his head and asked Jin Han and the dragon horse Jin Feng, "Disciples, which one do you think is the real Jin Kong?" "Master, we really can't tell." Jin Han and the dragon horse Jin Feng replied in unison, "Actually, Master can ask some secrets that only you and second senior brother know, damn it." Without waiting for Jin Han and the dragon horse Jin Feng to finish speaking, the two Jinkongs cursed together. Since it's a secret, how can Master ask it in person? If the fake Jinkong heard it, wouldn't he know? Oh, that's right, Master, please don't ask. Jinhan and the dragon horse Jinfeng realized and hurriedly said to Chunzong, let's wait for eldest senior brother to come back first. Alright, it seems like we can only wait for Jinjia to come back first. Chunzong could only place his hopes on Jinjia, who was sleeping somewhere. However, they waited for more than half a day. Seeing that the sun was about to set, they still didn't see the shadow of that pig. Because of the fight between the two Jinkongs, the fishermen in the fishing village didn't dare to leave the village. Around the fishing village, there were some shelves made of withered branches. Most of them had fishing nets on them. These fishing nets were supposed to be put away last night, but because of the arrival of Chunzong and the others, as well as the battle between Jinjia and the three demon kings, most of them weren't put away. At this moment, these shelves had collapsed due to the strong wind, and the fishing nets were scattered on the beach. Far away on the beach, there were some small boats. Originally, when the tide rose this morning, the fishermen in the fishing village would go out to sea as usual. However, because of the fight between the two Jinkongs, the fishermen didn't go out to sea. When the tide rose, some fishing boats were dragged by the seawater and drifted into the sea. Together with the fishing nets from before, most of them were floating not far away from the beach. Although these fishing boats and fishing nets weren't far from the beach, when the tide fell, they would probably drift into the depths of the East Sea. The owners of these boats would lose their boats, and their livelihood would be even more difficult in the future. Looking at the two identical Jinkongs staring at each other like fighting cocks, ready to fight at any time, Chunzong sighed and once again looked at the distant sea. A layer of darkness appeared in the depths of the sea. Chunzong, who had already passed through the East Sea 3 times, knew that a storm was coming. Master, Xiao Chao said in a low voice, there will be a storm tonight. If we don't put away the fishing boats now, they will turn into wood chips tomorrow morning. Ba. Chunzong sighed and said, even at this time, young benefactor is still thinking about others. You are really kind. Master. Dragon Horse Shinfeng called from the side, let's find a place to hide from the rain. Who knows when eldest martial brother will come back this time. It's not the first time he went out to slack off. If the wind is calm, he might come back tomorrow. Now that there is a storm, he must be at the bottom of the sea somewhere. Chunzong pondered for a moment. What Dragon Horse Shinfeng said was the truth. Jinjia was loyal to Chunzong, but he was also very lazy. When they first came down from the snowy mountain, he was fine, lying on Dragon Horse Shinfeng's back to sleep every day. Later, Jinjia felt uncomfortable on Dragon Horse Shinfeng's back, so he would find excuses to go out and fight demons from time to time. This fight would take at most 10 days, and at least a few days. However, at that time, Jinkong was there, so Chunzong didn't feel that there was much difference. But now that Jinkong was in trouble, Jinjia went out to slack off. This small matter was a big deal. Let's go. Chunzong stood up and said, let's go first. Don't block the fisherman's livelihood. If we don't go out to sea, I'm afraid that some families will be in trouble. Yes, Master. The two Jinkongs answered at the same time, very habitually. Damn it. The two Jinkongs, who had just rested for a while, were furious again. With a loud shout, they started to fight again. Chapter 45-67. Chunzong was helpless and could only say to Jinhan, disciple, go and pick up the fishing boats and nets scattered in the sea. Don't let them drift with the waves. Master. Jinhan looked at the two Jinkongs fighting and said nervously, right now, I still can't tell which one is real and which one is fake. Disciple has to protect your safety and can't leave without permission. Che. Longma Zhenfeng sneered, it's obvious that the one who came back first is fake. If he wanted to harm Master, he would have made a move already. Why wait until now? I think the one who came back later is fake. Zhenhan snorted, Zhenfeng, you are from the dragon race. Picking up fishing boats and nets from the sea is your specialty. You should be the one doing this. Bah. Longma Zhenfeng spat, I am the 10th prince of the Eastern Sea Dragon Palace. How can I do such a trivial thing? If the other princes of the Eastern Sea Dragon Palace were to know about this, how can I still keep my face? You are already being ridden by a pig. What face do you still want? Zhen Han retorted. However, he immediately looked at Chun Zong, who was walking towards the sea, and shouted, Master, what are you doing? Ba. Master is going to do such a trivial thing. Chun Zong said without turning his head back. Master, don't be anxious. Disciple was just joking with junior brother. How could Jin Han dare to let Chun Zong go to the sea? He hurriedly said and flew above the sea. He raised his hand and grabbed the fishing boats and nets severally away. With a wave of his hand, he was about to throw them to the beach. Chun Zong saw this and hurriedly shouted, Disciple, be careful. Don't break these fishing boats. You are really long-winded. Although Zhen Han was impatient, he still restrained his temper and flew to the beach and put down the fishing boats and nets. After one more grab, the entire surface of the sea was cleaned. Zhen Han's face was a little pale as she gasped for breath and said, Master, Disciple was fortunate enough to not disappoint you. Amazing. Third senior brother is really amazing. Longma Zhenfeng raised his hoof and praised with admiration. Gosh, Chuanzong looked at the little girl and asked, we should be on our way. This penniless monk will send you back to the fishing village. But Liao Chao blinked and said, Master, if you send me back, I will starve to death. How is this possible? Zhen Han sneered, although there are only 40 to 50 families in this small fishing village, there are still over 100 people. Wouldn't having a little girl like you mean having an extra pair of chopsticks? Besides, don't you know how to pick up seafood on the beach? Even if you were at home, would they just watch you starve to death? Mao Chao opened her mouth but didn't know how to explain. After a while, she pointed in the direction of the fishing village and said, before the new year, there was a guy called Smelly Fish in our village. His parents went out to sea and didn't come back. He disappeared after that. Ba. Chuanjue chanted the name of Buddha. Shuachao's worries are not unfounded. These fishermen only relied on fishing for a living, and even a family of 3 might have problems filling their stomachs. How could they spare the energy to adopt a little girl? Not to mention Shuachao living alone. Who knows what kind of ancient people she would meet? In this era, people can only live for themselves. Conscience is about to disappear. This is also the reason why Master wants to bring the Mahayana Buddhist scriptures to the hidden immortal continent. So that under the illumination of Buddha's light, the world can become one. Master, do as you wish. Zhen Han casually replied. Shen Feng. Chuanjue spoke again, come here. Yes, Master. Shen Feng replied. Just as he took 2 steps forward, he suddenly realized something and cried out in shock, Monk, what are you doing? Ba, Shuachao is still a child. Master wants to take her away, so naturally I have to ride on your body. Chuanjue replied indifferently. Dragon Horse Shen Feng quickly retreated and shouted, how can this be? I am the 10th prince of the Eastern Sea Dragon Palace. How many people in this world can ride on my body? It is already good enough for me to become your disciple. You actually want a secular girl to ride on my body. You are humiliating me, humiliating my Eastern Sea Dragon Palace. Master. Jinhan also frowned and said, if this Xuechao is a boy, then so be it. We can just bring her along. She is a girl. Although she is young, she is still a girl. I am afraid that it will be inconvenient to bring her along, right? That's right. Dragon Horse Shenfeng retreated far away and shouted, Monk, if you do this, you will make that Eastern Sea conch girl who is infatuated with you sad. Ba. Chuanjue replied, Master will bring Xuechao along first. When we reach the city, I will find an honest family or a nunnery and let her stay there. Not good, not good. Jinhan said anxiously, how can there be an honest family in this world? If Master leaves, who knows how they will treat Xuechao? A nunnery is even worse. Xuechao is still so young, how can she become a nun? Ba, then I will leave this matter to you. Chuanjue smiled and said, the hidden immortal continent is the foundation of Confucian cultivators. The immortal palace must have a place to settle the old, the young, the sick, and the disabled. Since Sutra seeking in extreme bliss has the merit of Confucian cultivators, then Xuechao should also be one of the merit. Monk, you set a trap for me. Jinhan was startled and became somewhat angry. Chuanjue was not angry and said indifferently, Ba, if the immortal palace is selling dog meat under false pretenses, then you naturally don't have to do it. With that, Chuanjue pulled Xuechao's hand and said, Xuechao, follow this poor monk. Yes, master. Xuechao was very obedient. She stood up and looked at the fishing boat not far away with reluctance. She opened her mouth and wanted to say something, but in the end, she closed her mouth. Chuanjue was very attentive. After walking a few steps, he saw Xuechao's sad expression and woke up. He turned around and brought Xuechao to the fishing boat. Master, what are you doing? Dragon Horse Shenfeng asked hurriedly. Shenfeng, you go and tidy up the scriptures. Carry the scriptures and other things on your body first. Chuanjue instructed, Jinhan, you go with Master to the fishing village and tidy up the things in Xuechao's house. After all, this is Xuechao's house. Don't let her grow up and forget the things in her house. Thank you, Master. Xuechao heard this and tears flowed down her cheeks. No. Jinhan wanted to say that he didn't want to go, but seeing Chuanjue's firm steps, he knew that he couldn't stop him. He thought for a moment and said, Master, you wait here. Xuechao, come with me. With that, Chuanjue raised his hand and took Xuechao into his hand. He stepped on a cloud and impatiently flew to the sky above the fishing village. When Xuechao pointed at the straw hut, Chuanjue waved his hand and put the entire straw hut into his Qianquan bag. The fishermen and the fishing village were all afraid and hid in their houses, not daring to come out. Xuechao saw Chuanjue's divine ability and her eyes lit up. She hurriedly shouted, Uncles, I am Xuechao. My parents were killed by demons and unfortunately met with misfortune. I met a kind monk and they promised to take me to another place to settle down. You don't have to worry. When I grow up, I will come back to see you. Chuanjue was extremely impatient, but after hearing Xuechao's words, he couldn't help but look at Xuechao. After all, this child at such a young age was more meticulous than his age. It was indeed rare. However, Chuanjue didn't think too much about it. After flying back, he told Chuanjue. Chuanjue nodded with a smile. He held his staff in one hand and the little Xuechao in the other. He looked at the direction, then looked at the two Jinkongs who were still fighting in the sky and left. Who is the real one? Who dares to steal my merit? Longma Jinfeng carried the scripture on his back and looked at the battle in confusion. However, after a moment, he shook his tail and sneered, "What does this have to do with me? My merit won't be any less." After saying that, Longma Jinfeng followed behind Chuanjue. However, after a moment, Longma Jinfeng cursed, "Damn it! Why aren't there 2 chastity rings? This scripture is as light as a feather compared to the chastity rings." Humph. Behind Longma Jinfeng, Chuanjue's voice came again, "Even if there are 2 chastity rings, won't you still have to carry whoever is killed?" Longma Jinfeng snorted and said with a smile, "What if the fake one kills the real one and the fake one isn't lazy? Maybe he won't ride on my back and show off his prowess." "You're dreaming." Chuanjue sneered, "How can the fake kill the real one? Do you think that there are so many 8th grade peak elemental energy experts in this world who would come and join in the fun?" "That's right." Longma Jinfeng was also interested and said in a low voice, "Chuanjue, between the 2 Jinkongs, which one is the real one and which one is the fake one?" "Nonsense, the one who came back first is the fake one, the one who came back later is the real one," Chuanjue replied without thinking. Longma Jinfeng was displeased, "You're the one who's talking nonsense. Can't you have a nice chat? The night is long and the stars are shining brightly. Don't you want to talk about the biggest secret of immortals, Buddhas, and demons? What's there to talk about?" Chuanjue sneered, "We're all chess pieces. Fate is never in the hands of chess pieces." No, you don't understand what I mean." Longma Jinfeng laughed, "What I mean is, between the 2 Jinfengs, one is the real one and the other is the fake one. Or are both the real one and the fake one? Why did he appear at this time?" "Oh. Jinfeng, what do you mean?" Chuanjue's curiosity was piqued and she asked curiously, "Quickly say it." "We just came out from the Eastern Sea. Could it be that you got some news?" "Guesses are guesses. 3rd senior brother, you can't slander me." Longma Jinfeng was somewhat displeased, "Although I came from the Eastern Sea, I didn't see the dragon race from the Eastern Sea Dragon Palace. I didn't even see a single marine race from the Dragon Palace. Eldest senior brother can testify to this." Chapter 4568. All right. Jinhan smiled and said, "Aren't we fellow disciples? I'm just joking with you, don't take it to heart." "Hee, senior brother." Longma Jinfeng chuckled and asked, "I'm just joking. Think about it, Jinkong wasn't originally in the sutra seeking extreme bliss. He was the monk's disciple. This disciple received a lot of merit, and the 2 of us talked about it before. But now, we still don't know where this fire ape came from. Do you think it's possible that some great sage of the 1,000 Beasts sacred realm couldn't stand this fire ape and sent all the beast clans to kick him out of the sutra seeking extreme bliss?" "Of course." Jinhan replied without hesitation, "This is the most likely scenario. Moreover." Jinhan glanced at Longma Jinfeng and said meaningfully, "Junior brother, don't you think that the appearance of this fake Jinkong has a lot to do with the East Sea Dragon Palace's peace?" Hiss. Longma Jinfeng couldn't help but suck in a breath of cold air and said in shock, "Senior brother, you mean? Since you've already guessed this possibility, why do you need me to say more?" Jinhan smiled and didn't say anything. "Don't. Senior brother." Longma Jinfeng thought of another possibility and couldn't help but feel bad. He quickly smiled and said, "I'm just a bystander, so why don't you say it?" Jinhan rolled his eyes and said ambiguously, "It's your beast clan's matter, why do you need me to say it? Although I don't know what happened in the East Sea Dragon Palace, you should be glad that there are 2 Jinkongs and not 2 Jinfengs." That's right, I didn't think about it at first, but now that senior brother said it, I know." Jinfeng seemed to have some lingering fear in his heart as he replied, "It's possible that the great sage of the Great Sage Hall, went back on his word. Something happened between the Great Sage Hall and the East Sea Dragon Palace. Fortunately, the East Sea Dragon Palace didn't abandon me, the 10th prince. That's right. Jinhan smiled and said, "You're still the 10th prince of the East Sea Dragon Palace, unlike this fire ape who doesn't have any background." At this point, Jinhan's heart skipped a beat, and he hurriedly transmitted his voice, "That's not right. Jinfeng, do you still remember the snowy mountain?" "Nonsense, who doesn't remember the Great Snow Mountain? Namo Mithreya Buddha achieved enlightenment and Jinjia became our senior brother." Speaking of the Great Snow Mountain, Dragon Horse Shinfeng immediately thought of its own bloody history and became somewhat angry. "Do you think that Daoist Xiao is Shin Kong's backer?" Shen Han reminded. "I remember that Daoist Xiao treated Jin Kong quite well back then. Are you kidding me? He's Shin Jie's backer." Dragon Horse Shinfeng said disapprovingly, "That day, that human didn't say anything to Jin Kong, and he even cursed at him a lot." The funniest thing is that the fire ape didn't know the immensity of heaven and earth and wanted to ask that human for a magic treasure. Wasn't it rejected by the human? "That's true." Shenhan nodded and said, "If Daoist Xiao has a backer, it's not a big deal to give him a magic treasure. Moreover, Daoist Master Xiao rejected him very tactfully. With one look, I can tell that he is not on the same side as Shin Kong. You humans are really laughable." Dragon Horse Shinfeng mocked, "A rejection is a rejection. Why did you say, when you are done with the sutra seeking extreme bliss, come and ask me for it and I will keep it for you? That's too fake." Hee, why else would I be a human? There are a lot of ways of the world that you monsters don't understand. Shen Han replied with a mischievous smile. "I am a dragon, the 10th prince of the East Sea Dragon Palace, not a monster." Dragon Horse Shinfeng corrected again. These words, he had probably said it more than 2,000 times in the 200 years he had spent in the sutra seeking extreme bliss. Shen Han didn't mind. He raised his head and looked at the two Jin Kongs in the distant night sky and said with a smile, "In my opinion, this fake Jin Kong was sent by the Great Sage Palace to kill Jin Kong and seize his merits. That's not right." Dragon Horse Shinfeng was about to nod, but he suddenly thought of something and said in confusion, "If this is the work of the Great Sage Palace, why didn't they lure Jin Kong to a secret place and kill him before letting the fake Jin Kong come back?" "That's right, that's true." Shin Han also didn't understand, but then he asked curiously, "If that's not the case, then how do you explain those three monsters with 8th grade essence energy? Weren't they sent by the Great Sage Palace to lure the tiger away from the mountain?" "It's getting more and more complicated." Dragon Horse Shinfeng kicked his front hooves and said, "If it isn't the Great Sage Palace, then could it be the Immortal Palace? How could it be the Immortal Palace?" Shin Han didn't understand what Dragon Horse Shinfeng was thinking. "Look, nothing happened at the Sutra world, but when we arrived at the hidden Immortal Continent, before we even set foot on the ground, the three monster kings came." Dragon Horse Shinfeng said with a smile, "Then eldest senior brother disappeared. The control insect came and the real Jin Kong was discovered. And the merit officer who should have appeared, has yet to appear. Do you think the Immortal Palace did this on purpose?" Hee. Shin Han smiled and said, "Even if my Immortal Palace wanted to do something, we would definitely not use a monster as an excuse. Not to mention, using such despicable methods. There are 3 reasons why there are no merit officers of the Immortal Palace." "Oh, there are actually 3 reasons. Third senior brother, let's hear it." Dragon Horse Shinfeng said with interest. "First of all, this sutra seeking in Sutra world is a Buddhist sutra. It has nothing to do with my Immortal Palace and Confucian cultivators. Why would the merit officers of my Immortal Palace care about it? Tell me, then what?" Then, since eldest senior brother came from the great snow mountain, those so-called tribulations are no longer tribulations. The sutra-seeking in Sutra world has been smooth sailing. Even the Thunder Temple's protector has slacked off, not to mention the merit officers of my immortal palace. What else? It's possible that the merit officers of the Thunder Temple are negotiating with the Thunder Temple's protector. Jinhan smiled and pointed to the sky. Maybe they don't like each other and are killing each other. Hee hee. Dragon Horse Shinfeng also smiled and said the same thing as Jinhan. The 3 reasons that third senior apprentice brother mentioned sound reasonable. Moreover, the Immortal Palace will also have misgivings about their face and won't use such despicable methods. However, don't forget that on the hidden Immortal Continent, there are still the 4 great clans and the 100 clans. If this is the case, third senior brother, you are just lucky. Jinhan's sweat dripped down from his forehead. His situation was very similar to Dragon Horse Shinfeng's. It was just that his status was a bit more official than Dragon Horse Shinfeng's. If the 4 great clans really went back on their words and wanted to take advantage of the situation, he might really become a sacrifice. However, since there are 2 Jinkongs, Jinfeng and Jinhan looked at each other again, and a knowing smile appeared on their faces. They whispered to each other through telepathy, then the danger we're in is gone. However, a moment later, Jinhan whispered, from the looks of it, we have temporarily avoided the danger. However, we still have to be careful. Before the truth comes to light, anything is possible. Everyone sweeps the snow in front of their own door. Don't worry about the frost on the roof of others. Draconic Horse Shinfeng was naturally very interested in this matter and whispered, who cares who is the real Jinkong and who is the fake Jinkong? Protecting ourselves is the right thing to do. Chunzong pulled Tuo Chao and walked at the front. Although he was not much faster than Dragon Horse Shinfeng and Jinhan, he still couldn't hear the words of his 2 disciples. He also didn't understand the thoughts of his 2 disciples. He also didn't know that although he had obtained the sutra that could illuminate the hidden immortal continent, could the people who schemed and plotted against each other really let the Mahayana Sutra illuminate the hearts of the people? The night was extremely dark. There were no stars in the sky. Behind them, a gale gradually formed on the sea and a whistling sound gradually sounded. However, this whistling sound couldn't cover up the crackling sound of fighting above Chun Zhang's head. Occasionally, there would be a loud sound in the distance. It was unknown which Shinkong was knocked to the ground. Then, there would be the sound of hills being smashed and trees being pushed down. Tuo Chao barely managed to walk for an hour. Then, Chun Zhang carried Tuo Chao and walked for another hour. Chun Zhang couldn't hold on anymore. His body was sweating profusely. He stood on the dark road and looked around. There was an indescribable feeling in his heart. However, a smile appeared at the corner of his mouth. This smile was really meaningful. Even Mahavirakana probably couldn't understand the meaning behind it. Shenhan. Chun Zhang turned his head and looked at Tuo Chao who was sleeping on his shoulder. He said, "Go find a place to rest." "Yes, master." Shenhan responded. She looked up at the fighting in the night sky and flew up slightly. Her eyes flashed with a clear light. She pointed with her finger and said, "Master, there is a shabby cottage over there. No one lives there. Why don't we go there?" "Okay." Chun Zhang nodded and was about to walk in that direction. Shenhan looked at Chun Zhang and said in a low voice, "Master, give Tuo Chao to disciple. Disciple will bring her there and tidy up the cottage." "Amitba. Go and tidy up. Tuo Chao is sleeping soundly. Don't wake him up." Chun Zhang panted and replied. Shenhan smiled and said, "Master, you underestimate disciple. How can disciple wake Tuo Chao?" Then, Jinhan raised her hand and Tuo Chao gently floated up. Chunzong smiled and let Jinhan fly away with Tuo Chao. He didn't know when the fighting in the sky ended. Chuanzong only knew that when he woke up from his meditative state, the entire thatched hut was rattling. The salty sea breeze was blowing outside, and heavy rain was pouring down. The entire thatched hut seemed to be about to be overturned by the storm. The storm had finally come. Chapter 45-69. Amidst the wind and rain, Mo Chao curled up her small body and laid beside Chuanzong. Even the wind and rain couldn't wake her up from her dream of having parents. Looking at the smile on Mo Chao's face, Chuanzong sighed and stood up. As soon as Chuanzong moved, the originally closed wooden door opened with a loud bang. A gust of wind mixed with the cold rain rushed into the thatched cottage. Chuanzong hurriedly stood to the side and blocked the rain that landed on Mo Chao's body. However, a gust of cold wind still woke Chong Chao up. She rubbed her eyes and was about to act coquettishly when the smile on her face disappeared. Returning to reality, she hurriedly stood up carefully and stood beside Chuanzong like a maidservant. Master. Outside the cottage, the two Jinkongs each held a magic wand and stared at each other. They spoke in unison, "Tell me which one of us is the real one and which one is the fake one." "The real one stays, the fake one, scram." Although the torrential rain outside the cottage was heavy, layers of demonic aura were generated in the space a few feet around the two Jinkongs. The demonic aura was scorching hot like flames, preventing the torrential rain from landing on the two Jinkongs. However, the two Jinkongs were covered in mud and even had some bloodstains. It was obvious that they were injured during the fight. Chuanzong looked at them and felt his heart ache. After listening to the two Jinkongs, he understood that the two Jinkongs were exactly the same. Neither of them could defeat the other. That was why they came to such a compromise. Unfortunately, Chuanzong looked at them again and again. After the time it took to finish a meal, he spoke, "Disciple, I really can't tell, who is the real Jinkong? You need the heavenly eye of Buddhism to be able to tell, right? Can't both of you fly? If you can, go to Lane Temple. Mahavirakana should be able to tell the difference." Monk. To Chuanzong's surprise, the two Jinkongs spoke at the same time. "You think I've been protecting you all this time? Now that I need your help, you can't even tell who is the real one and who is the fake one." Chuanzong was not surprised by Jinkong's lack of respect. What he found strange was that the two Zenkongs actually spoke the same word. He said helplessly, "Oh Jinkong, you've seen it for yourself. It's not that I don't want to help you. Whatever you want to say, that fake knows in advance. Even the way you speak is the same. How can I tell the difference? If that's the case." The two Jinkongs said at the same time, "Let's go find the Vairocana revered one. Monk, be careful along the way." "Go, Master will wait for you here." Chun King nodded and replied. "Hee, Monk, do you think Lane Temple is a small fishing village?" The two Jinkongs mocked, "It'll take months or even years for us to make a round trip. You'd better go on your own." "I see." Chuanzong was stunned. "If that's the case, why don't you wait until Jinjie comes back?" "Him." The two Jinkongs sneered. If only he could see through it. Then Chunzong hesitated and asked, "This is already the hidden immortal continent. Can the immortal palace help?" That's right, that's right." Hearing this, the two Jinkongs were overjoyed and shouted, "Damn Shinhan, why aren't you hurrying to find the Merit Chow on duty?" Second senior brother. Shinhan smiled bitterly. "With such strong winds and heavy rain, where do you want me to find?" Without waiting for him to finish, the two Jinkongs raised their wands and said, "Damn it, if you dare to say another word, I'll beat you to death." Seeing that the two Jinkongs were angered, Jinhan did not dare to stay out of it. He hurriedly waved his hand and said, "Second senior brother, don't be anxious. I'll go and find the Merit Chow on duty now. Hurry back." The patience of the two Jinkongs had long been worn out. He waved his wand and said, "Be careful of my wand." "Yes, yes." Jinhan hurriedly nodded his head and hurriedly left on his cloud. Damn it. The eyes of the two Jinkongs turned blood red, and there were flames within the blood-red eyes. "Both of you are useless. You can't even see through a demon. Fight." As he said that, the two Jinkongs started fighting again. Seeing the two fire apes fighting in the air again, Chunzong carefully closed the door. However, before he could turn around, Xiao Chao's words gave him a fright. "Moss. Master." Xiao Chao's voice was as soft as a mosquito. I know who is the real one." "What?" Chunzong was shocked. Without hesitation, he stepped forward and covered Xiao Chao's mouth. He said in a low voice, "Do you want to die? Don't say it out loud. That fake one can beat you to death with a single blow." "An." Xiao Chao nodded her head sensibly and pursed her lips. At this moment, one of the two Jinkongs who were fighting suddenly glanced at the thatched cottage below him and a ferocious glint appeared in his eyes. That figure actually had the intention to descend. However, the other Jinkongs was fighting excitedly. He was entangling this Jinkongs tightly. This fake Jinkongs also managed to extricate himself in a short period of time. After a while, the two of them flew high into the dark clouds. The sounds of fighting gradually disappeared. Hearing that there was no movement outside, Chunzong lowered his voice and said, "Xiao Chao, wait for a while. Wait for my eldest disciple to return." N. Xiao Chao nodded her head again. Chunzong looked at the wind and rain outside the cottage and asked in bewilderment, "Xiao Chao, you? How can you tell?" Xiao Chao looked at Chunzong and hesitated for a while. She said in a low voice, "Because he is really my enemy. I must remember him. I want to avenge my parents." Amitba. Chunzang's heart was filled with mixed feelings. He said, "Xiao Chao, how about this poor monk recite a scripture for you?" "Sure, master." Xiao Chao nodded. Avalokitesvara Bodhisattva, when he walked the deep Prajnaparamita for a long time, he saw that the 5 skandhas were all emptiness. He transcended all suffering. Chunzong placed his palms together and recited softly. Xiao Chao's face was filled with confusion. She did not know what Chunzong was reciting, but she listened obediently. Boom! At this time, a loud sound came from outside the cottage. It was unknown whether it was the wind and rain or the aftermath of the battle, but the roof of the cottage was suddenly lifted and the wind and rain poured in. Chunzong immediately understood what happened. He did not hesitate and pulled Xiao Chao into his arms. There was no fear on his face. He raised his head and looked at the wind and rain while chanting the Heart Sutra of Prajnaparamita. Clap, clap, clap. The sound of the magic wands hitting each other was endless. Soon after, the sound gradually faded away. However, Chunzong was not at ease. He still protected Xiao Chao in front of his chest, blocking the wind and rain and danger. Damn it! Longma Jinfeng's voice came from outside the cottage. "I wanted to be idle for a while, but you had to drag me out. I am the 10th prince of the Eastern Sea Dragon Palace. Now, I have become a craftsman repairing a cottage." Following Longma Jinfeng's voice, the roof that was previously lifted returned and blocked the wind and rain. "Master, are you all right?" Dragon Horse Shinfeng was very thorough in evading. He didn't even want to meet Jin Kong face to face. After asking this question, before Chun Zhang could reply, he had already disappeared. Chun Zhang's body was already soaked, but he did not dare to be careless. He did not dare to move his body and continued to protect Xiao Chao while chanting the sutra. 2 hours later, the rain gradually lessened and the wind weakened. In the distant sky, Jin Han flew over with 2 earthen lords. Damn it! The 2 Jin Kong's eyes flashed with golden light at the same time as they cursed, "Useless things, why did you find 2 earthen lords?" However, the 2 Jin Kongs stopped at the same time. One of them glanced at the cottage that was gradually getting further away and seemed to be calculating something in his heart. Second senior brother. Jin Han shouted, "This little brother has found the land of the immortal palace." Useless things, can they tell who is fake? The 2 Jin Kongs did not hesitate to curse. Second senior brother, you don't know. Jin Han smiled, "I also have no way to find the earthen lords on duty. The only one I can find is the earthen lords. However, I heard from these 2 earthen lords that they met the earthen lords on duty yesterday. They should be dealing with the Buddhist sect's guardian heavenly kings and venerables. They will be back soon." "How long?" one Jin Kong said impatiently while the other Jin Kong looked at the cottage. Seeing that the fake Jin Kong did not say anything, the real Jin Kong suddenly turned his head and looked at the fake Jin Kong. The fake Jin Kong laughed coldly, "What are you looking at? You fake, when the earthen lords on duty come, you will be exposed." Ha ha ha. The real Jin Kong used his hand to hit his chest and shouted, "What a joke, what a joke. Between the 2 of us, who is the one who is afraid? Could it be that you are thinking of escaping?" Ha ha ha. The fake Jin Kong used his hand to hit his chest and said, "How can I be afraid?" "Masters," the 2 earthen lords said with a smile, "we have already sent a message to the earthen lords on duty. I believe that they will be back soon." "Good, good, good. We will wait here." The 2 Jin Kong spoke at the same time. Hearing this, the 2 earthen lords felt their hair stand on end. This was because the 2 fire apes were saying the same words and doing the same actions at the same time. It was truly strange. This wait lasted for a whole hour. The 2 Jin Kong scratched their ears and cheeks anxiously. This was especially so for one of them. His eyes would occasionally flash with an ominous glint as if he was looking at the 2 earthen lords. However, in reality, he was looking at the ground. Needless to say, this was definitely the fake Jin Kong. He had already heard the words of the earthen lords and wanted to get rid of the earthen lords. If there was only the real Jin Kong, he would not hesitate to rush down and kill the earthen lords. In fact, he had already tried flying down earlier. However, the real Jin Kong was watching him closely. As long as he moved, the real Jin Kong would fight him. Moreover, the earthen lords were being protected by Chuanzang. The fake Jin Kong would not be able to kill the earthen lords in a short period of time. Furthermore, the 2 earthen lords said that the earthen lords on duty were about to arrive. The fake Jin Kong was unable to grasp who the earthen lords were, what their cultivation level was, and when they would arrive. He was afraid that the moment he landed, the reward would arrive and mess up all the arrangements he had painstakingly made. Therefore, he hesitated again and again. It was during this little bit of hesitation that an hour passed. Looking at the storm and the sky revealing the light, the fake Jin Kong almost didn't dare to believe it. Chapter 45-70. Damn it! The fake Jin Kong cursed angrily. He finally made up his mind to attack regardless of the consequences. Unfortunately, as soon as he moved, the real Jin Kong, as he expected, thought that he was going to attack. He also cursed and rushed over with his magic wand. "Roar, do you think I am afraid of you?" The fake Jin Kong roared furiously. His magic wands rained down like rain, and his body rapidly plummeted to the ground. Swoosh! Right at this moment, 4 dignified gazes swept over. The moment they landed on the 2 Jinkongs, they couldn't help but be stunned. Immediately after, 4 voices came from afar in unison. This. What is going on? Why are there 2 Jinkongs? Along with the voice, boom boom. Righteous chi rushed down from the sky like a torrent, enveloping the space around the 2 Jinkongs. Within this righteous chi, 2 Confucian generals in battle armor and 2 Confucian cultivators in official robes flew over on auspicious clouds. Before they could land, Jinhan smelled a trace of mellow wine fragrance from the righteous chi. Damn it! Jinhan cursed in a low voice and looked at the 2 Earth Lords. The 2 Earth Lords seemed to have smelled something and their faces looked awkward. They looked at each other and hurriedly moved forward to greet the 4 Earth Lords. This lowly one greets the 4 merit officers. Damned Earth Lords. The one in front was a Confucian cultivator wearing a red official robe. He had a fat head and big ears. His stomach was slightly protruding and the wings on his official hat were slightly swaying. Under the hat, he had a red face and a pair of eyes that were even more protruding than his stomach. This Confucian cultivator was holding an object that looked like an imperial tablet. When he saw the 2 Earth Lords bowing, he scolded, "The sutra-seeking state of bliss has just arrived at my hidden immortal continent and there is such a huge anomaly. Why didn't the 2 of you report it? How should the 2 of you be punished?" The 2 Earth Lords panicked and hurriedly reported, "For merit officers, this lowly one didn't know that the sutra-seeking state of bliss had passed by this lowly one. Furthermore, the sutra-seeking state of bliss is not within this lowly one's responsibility." What? The merit officer was angry and scolded, "The sutra-seeking state of bliss is a huge matter of my immortal palace and thunder monastery. How can it not be within your responsibility? Aren't you neglecting your duties by saying such things?" The other landlord was even more straightforward. "This lowly one has already sent the information about this place to Sir Merit Officer 2 hours ago." Oh. The merit officer was startled. He turned his head to look at the other Confucian general who was wearing battle armor and holding a hatchet in his hand. He asked curiously, "Merit officer on duty, is there such a thing?" The merit officer's face was also slightly red, but his expression didn't change. He faintly replied, "Lord Merit Officer, I have received some messages, but I don't know which one is from the local land. After all, we have to deal with the Buddhist sect's guardian heavenly kings. There are too many things, and it's difficult to deal with them one by one." As he spoke, the merit officer on duty took out a few small booklets that looked like memorials. He casually flipped through them a few times and took out one of them. He opened it and nodded. "Indeed, it has been issued. Since that's the case, you are all innocent." The merit officer came to a conclusion. He looked at the ground and said proudly, "Thank you, my lord." The 2 landlords finally heaved a sigh of relief. Then, they immediately asked, "My lord, we still have duties to do. Do you think we can leave first?" "Leave?" The merit officer on duty glanced at the 2 Jinkongs who were still fighting fiercely. He faintly said, "Is there anything more important in the hidden immortal continent than sutra-seeking in nirvana?" This. The 2 landlords didn't know how to answer. Jinhan hurriedly said, "Lord Merit Officer on duty is right. Sutra-seeking in nirvana came from nirvana to the hidden immortal continent. Previously, everything was in order in nirvana, but when it came to our hidden immortal continent, there was a problem. If our immortal palace didn't handle it properly, it would damage the face of us Confucian cultivators." That's right, that's right. That's right. The other old man wearing an official's robe praised. "The 2 of you also wait here for orders." Yes, Lord Merit Officer on duty. The two disciples knew that this was Lord Merit Officer of the Four Seasons action to share the responsibility, but they couldn't do anything about it. They could only respond and respectfully stand at the side. Humph. The Merit Officer on duty snorted coldly. He waved his hand and a dozen inscription chains as thin as a thumb appeared. They circled around in the nearby space. He said, "Where did this evildoer come from? He actually dares to disturb the order of our immortal palace's sutra seeking in nirvana. Hurry up and capture him." When the two Jinkongs who were fighting fiercely saw this, joy appeared on their faces. At the same time, they put away their magic wands and flew up to the clouds. They shouted, "Old Merit Officer, you guys are finally here. Hurry up and let us see which one is real and which one is fake." Damn it. The Merit Officer on duty cursed in a low voice. He raised his head and looked at the sky, which was filled with mottled clouds. It was as if he disdained to speak with the two Jinkongs. Humph. The Merit Officer on duty didn't speak. The Merit Officer on duty shouted, "Where did this evildoer come from? He actually dares to disturb the order of our immortal palace's sutra seeking in nirvana. If you kneel down and beg for mercy now, we can still let you go. We might not necessarily capture you and bring you to the immortal palace. When we find you, you can blame us for being ruthless and killing you on the spot. Hurry, hurry." The two Jinkongs shouted at the same time. "Hurry up and use your divine abilities to find that damned evildoer." Shen Kong. The Merit Officer on duty didn't use his divine abilities. Instead, he said coldly, "I have already heard from the Guardian Heavenly King that ever since you participated in the sutra seeking in nirvana, you have protected Xuanzang's safety. However, along the way, you have killed many Yao and Daoist cultivators. Is it because you have killed too many Yao that he changed his appearance to harm you? Think about it yourself. Which powerful Yao have you offended? Old Merit Officer." The two Jinkongs immediately became angry. However, they still restrained themselves and said, "Are you here to capture the evildoer? Or are you here to judge my merits and demerits? The number of Yao and Daoist cultivators I have killed has nothing to do with you. You have no right to judge my merits and demerits. How dare you?" The Merit Officer on duty roared. "You are merely a Yao. You are already extremely lucky to have the qualifications to participate in the sutra seeking in nirvana. You actually dare to say such insolent words. Scram!" The two Jinkongs were furious. "Don't try to act sanctimonious in front of me. If you have the ability, then find the fake Jinkongs. If you don't, then hurry up and scram. When we kill our way into the immortal palace, we will let the immortal emperor punish your criminals." With that, the two Jinkongs moved and were about to fly towards the depths of the hidden immortal continent. Wait! The Merit Officer on duty naturally wouldn't let the two Jinkongs leave. He retracted his gaze and glanced at them arrogantly. "Vile spawn, since you are not willing to grab this last chance, then don't blame me for being impolite." As he spoke, the Merit Officer slapped his forehead. His eyes flashed with a silver light and a cold light shone down, covering the two Chens. However, a moment later, the Merit Officer's face was filled with surprise. He said, "Sirs, let's use the Four Seasons all-seeing technique at the same time." It can't be. The Merit Officer on duty was astonished. However, when he saw the Merit Officer on duty's expression, he immediately shut his mouth. A bronze color appeared in his eyes. As for the Merit Officer on duty and the Merit Officer on duty who had been silent all this time, a clear light appeared in their eyes and landed on the two Jinkongs at the same time. Not to mention the four Merit Officers, even Zhen Han could clearly see that under the Four Seasons detection technique, the color of the entire space seemed to have faded. Layers upon layers of light were extinguished and only black and white colors were left. Unfortunately, within the inscription chains, there were two identical Jinkongs. Although their hair and clothes were gone, the two fire apes with flickering flames around their bodies were still the same. Cough cough. A moment later, the merit officer on duty coughed and the clear light disappeared. He then said, "Jinkong, your situation is rather special. The four of us still need to study it." Bullshit. The two Jinkongs roared, "I've seen many people who don't do a single thing. However, this is the first time I've seen someone as shameless as you. If you have the ability to distinguish the two Jinkongs, that's fine. However, since you're so useless, what qualifications do you have to humiliate me? Hit me." As he spoke, the two Jinkongs raised their wands at the merit officer on duty. The merit officer on duty clearly didn't expect the two Jinkongs to suddenly attack. The wands swept through the sky and instantly shattered the inscription chains. Caught off guard, the wands landed right in front of the merit officer on duty. Damn it! The merit officer on duty was alarmed. He waved his hand and countless pillars of boundless chi surged out like ocean waves in an attempt to block the two wands. Boom! In the blink of an eye, the two wands hit the merit officer on duty. With a loud explosion, the merit officer on duty shattered the merit officer on duty. Even his fingers were dripping with blood. "Rebel, rebel." The merit officer on duty shouted, "You guys really don't want to live anymore." As he spoke, the merit officer on duty pointed at the merit officer on duty and said, "Why aren't you guys killing these two evildoers?" "Sir." The merit officer on duty and the merit officer on duty looked at each other and replied, "We were ordered by the immortal emperor to protect the master and disciple of the sutra seeking extreme bliss. Now that the two Jinkongs can't distinguish the real from the fake, we can't do anything." Woo! The two Jinkongs' wands once again fell from the sky and attacked the merit officer on duty's forehead. The merit officer on duty was alarmed and hurriedly flew up. As he flew, he shouted, "Quick, quick, send a message to Tai-Bai Jinxing. He probably hasn't gone far yet. The immortal emperor's decree is in the hands of the merit officer on duty." The merit officer on duty calmly replied, "We don't have a message from Tai-Bai Jinxing." Chapter 4571. Sir. The merit officer on duty did his best to dodge the two magic wands and shouted, "Whoosh!" Before the merit officer on duty could finish his words, the merit officer on duty waved his hand and a golden meteor shot into the sky, disappearing in an instant. Humph. Seeing that the message had been sent, the merit chow opened his mouth and several clouds appeared, blocking the magic wand as he shouted, "When Lord Tai-Bai Jinxing arrives, see if I won't teach you a lesson." Whoosh. With a clear sound, the clouds were swept away and two Jinkongs appeared in front of the merit officer on duty. The merit officer on duty was so frightened that he hurriedly retreated. Seeing that the merit officer on duty was retreating, the two Jinkongs stopped. They lazily put away their magic wands and scratched the fur on their body, coldly saying, "The immortal officials of the immortal palace are only a so-so. No wonder they couldn't send out any capable subordinates. Previously, I didn't understand why Jin Han was so lazy and tried to shirk his responsibility. Now that I look at you all, going too far is as bad as not going far enough. If you all also participated in the sutra seeking extreme bliss, I would have already beaten your butts." When Jin Han heard this, his face turned ashen. Right now, he didn't want to help Jin Kong find the fake Jin Kong. Instead, he wanted to beat the real Jin Kong to death. "Alright, since Tai-Bai Jinxing of the Immortal Palace is here, then I will wait here. Then I'll wait here and see what kind of ability that old man has." The two Jin Kongs were also tired of fighting. They muttered as they stood in the air. However, the two of them revealed an ominous glint in their eyes as they stared at each other, as if they would attack if the other party wasn't careful. At this moment, the fake Shin Kong no longer looked at the thatched cottage. His hesitation had already caused him to throw away his best chance. The arrival of the merit officer of the Four Seasons had completely ruined his plan. Now, he could only act according to the situation. Boom! In just a short moment, a rumbling sound could be heard in the distant sky. The vast energy pillar within several hundred li of the space was like a surging tide. Layers of whirlpools mixed with fragments of inscriptions were thrown into the sky like water splashes. Woo! Amidst the whistling of the wind, a dozen distorted and flat light shadows streaked across the sky and landed in front of everyone in an instant. A wave of majestic aura emanated from these light shadows, causing everyone to feel suffocated. Just as everyone was about to bow and salute, shwa, a tricolored rainbow bridge appeared among the dozens of lights and shadows, and shot towards the sky where everyone had come from. Boom boom boom. Hundreds of mighty pillars of energy descended, and the dozens of glowing figures instantly filled up. In an instant, they transformed into several 100 feet tall inspectors. These inspectors were all around the 6th grade of origin energy. Each of them stood there proudly, allowing the clouds around them to flow like water and cover the area within 100 miles. Woo! The three-colored bridge let out a roar and quickly shrank. An old man with white hair and a whisk flew out from the bridge. This old man had a kind face and looked very hale and hearty. However, when the old man landed in front of them, a formless pressure surged through the mighty aura in the sky, causing everyone to feel as if they were looking up to a tall mountain. This official greets Lord Taibai Jinxing. The merit keepers of the Four Seasons did not dare to be negligent. They all bowed and greeted respectfully. Taibai Jinxing's gaze swept across the two Jin Kongs, and he already knew what had happened. He waved his whisk and said indifferently, "Wait for me to come over. You must have sent a message for this old man to come over because of these two fire apes. Lord is wise." The merit keepers of the Four Seasons said with a flattering smile, "You didn't even wait for this official to speak and you were already able to see the reason. This official truly admires you." Taibai Jinxing did not reply. Instead, he looked thoughtfully at the two fire apes, and then raised his head to look in the direction of the Eastern Sea. He said in bewilderment, "This is really strange. This matter of the real and fake Shin Kong doesn't seem to be arranged by the Immortal Palace. Could it be a test from the Lane Temple?" Old Man Taibai. When the two Shin Kongs saw that Taibai Jinxing did not differentiate between the real and fake Shin Kong, and instead suspected that it was a trap from the Lane Temple, they could not help but cry out, "What exactly are you?" Before the two Shin Kongs could finish speaking, the two patrol officers roared, "How dare you!" Then, with a loud boom, two bolts of 5 chi righteous lightning struck down at the same time, hitting the two Shin Kongs. Ioyo! The two Shin Kongs cried out in pain at the same time, and they rolled in the air in the same manner. Interesting, interesting. When Taibai Jinxing saw the two Shin Kongs in the same situation, his eyes lit up. He could not help but stroke his beard and laughed, just where did the Lane Temple get these demons from? They are actually so intelligent. Damn it! The two Shin Kongs cried out in pain. Lightning circled around their bodies, and the mighty aura turned into inscription chains that bound their hands and feet. At the same time, they cursed softly, "Why are you torturing this old man for no reason? If you have the ability, hurry up and drag this demon out. Demons are hard to get rid of." Taibai Jinxing coldly looked at the two Shin Kongs and said, "Even if this demon brought the Mahayana Buddhist scriptures to the hidden immortal continent, how many Buddhist sects can they ignite?" Previously, this old man was still worried, but after looking at this fire ape, this old man finally understood the immortal emperor's intention. As he spoke, Tai Bai Jinxing pointed his finger at the two Jinkongs, and the two Jinkongs cried out in pain. Tai Bai Jinxing narrowed his eyes and looked at the two Jinkongs and said, "Calling yourself this old man, in front of this old man, didn't Chuanzang teach you to respect the old and love the young?" After speaking, Tai Bai Jinxing looked at the dozen patrol officers and ordered, "Wait and see which one is the real Jinkongs and which one is the fake fire ape." "Yes, my lord." The dozen patrol officers did not dare to be negligent. A few of them used their eye-cleansing technique to look carefully, and a few of them took out their imperial equipment. Those imperial equipment were either mirrors or rings, and all of them emitted a misty green light. Unfortunately, after half a cup of tea's time, the patrol officers looked at each other in dismay. They looked at each other and said in unison, "My lord, please know that we are unable to identify them." "Ah! It can't be." Tai Bai Jinxing was somewhat bewildered. Moreover, his face was somewhat embarrassed and angry. "You all have the cultivation of great grandmaster, but you can't even see through the true form of these two demon clans." "Yes, my lord." The patrol officer at the front was also somewhat ashamed. He replied in a low voice, "With our divine abilities, we can only see two fire apes that are exactly the same. We can't see any difference." Tai Bai Jinxing nodded. "If this is Lane Temple's test, how could they let us Confucian cultivators find a flaw so easily? All of you, back off." "Yes, sir." The dozen or so inspectors retreated slightly and sealed off the nearby space. Swoosh! Tai Bai Jinxing waved his hand and a cold light flew out. It was like a full moon rushing into the sky. When this light appeared, everyone could see clearly that it was a mirror that was like a full moon. This mirror was different from ordinary mirrors. The surface of this mirror was light gold. However, this light gold color seemed to be slightly cold. Moreover, the surface of the mirror was not flat. It was actually a layer of uneven surface. The light on the surface of the mirror shot out from the uneven surface, bringing with it some black spots. "Quick!" Tai Bai Jinxing roared. He raised his hand and pointed. The mirror continued to spin in midair, and an oval light shadow was born in midair. Strange. Shen Han, who was at the side, could clearly see that Tai Bai Jinxing's chanting was actually a Taoist mantra. As for the golden light that came from his finger, it was similar to Taoist magic power. Pooh! Just as Shen Han was in shock, Tai Bai Jinxing slapped the top of his head. A five-colored true energy surged out, turning into the shape of a pear blossom and rushed into the sky. When this cloud appeared, not only did it illuminate the surrounding tens of feet, it also caused thousands of pillars of vast chi to crash down. Woo! The cloud let out a trembling sound. In an instant, it expanded, and the five-colored pear blossom could be seen. It looked very lifelike. Go! Tai Bai Jinxing opened his mouth and blew. A gust of golden chi fell into the five-colored pear blossom. The cloud rolled and rushed into the light shadow formed by the rolling light shadow. When the cloud fell into the light shadow, it crashed into the mirror. Boom! The sound of thunder suddenly rang out. Strands of lightning appeared on the uneven surface of the mirror. Then, the entire surface of the mirror shone brightly. When the mirror flipped again, a faint golden pillar of light flickered a few times before crashing down. It was precisely the two Jinkongs. How is this possible? After the thunderous roar, there was a deathly silence. However, Shen Han's cry of surprise came at an untimely moment. It's actually two fire apes. Under the pillar of light, the two Jinkongs revealed their true demonic appearance. Within the flames that were thousands of feet in size, the two fire apes revealed their ferocious faces. Two sharp fangs protruded from their bloody mouths, and a pair of blood-red eyes were filled with ferocity. After Jinhan's cry of surprise, she immediately came to her senses and hurriedly said in a low voice, "This junior knows her mistake." Then, she lowered her head with confusion in her heart. After all, no one knew the origin of the Jinkongs. Now that two identical fire apes had appeared, how could the mastermind behind this be ordinary? Humph. Tai-Bai Jinxing let out a cold snort, and a five-colored light appeared in his eyes. Within the five-colored light, inscriptions that were even smaller than ants appeared. These inscriptions quickly gathered in the five-colored light, forming circles of light. These circles of light rotated like growth rings and slowly fell into Tai-Bai Jinxing's eyes. Crack, crack, crack. The moment the circles of light touched his eyes, they immediately produced thunderbolts. These thunderbolts turned into five-colored lightning and turned into a net. Through this net-like lightning, Tai-Bai Jinxing's gaze landed on the two fire apes' true forms. Ah! When he saw the two Jinkongs in front of him clearly, Tai-Bai Jinxing was stunned. Then, as if he didn't dare to believe himself, he blinked his eyes, and the net of thunderbolts in his eyes flashed again. After half a cup of tea's worth of time, Tai-Bai Jinxing closed his eyes and the five-colored halo slowly disappeared. When Tai-Bai Jinxing opened his eyes again, a strange smile appeared on his face. It seemed as if he had a card up his sleeve, but at the same time, it seemed as if he didn't know anything. Chapter 45-72. Tai-Bai Jinxing raised his hand and pointed. The pillar of light on the mirror disappeared and slowly returned to his hand. Tai-Bai Jinxing was not in a hurry to put away the mirror. Instead, he played with the mirror in his hand and looked at the two Jinkongs whose fire ape true form had completely disappeared. Old man Tai-Bai. At this moment, one of the Jinkongs spoke while the other one didn't. However, right after the first Jinkong finished speaking, the second Jinkong also shouted, "Can you tell who is real and who is fake?" "Of course I can." Tai-Bai Jinxing seemed to have made a decision and replied with a smile. "Speak, speak." The two Jinkongs shouted together, "Who is real and who is fake?" "Both of you are real and fake." Tai-Bai Jinxing replied with a double meaning. "Bullshit." One Jinkong said angrily, "Since you can tell, why don't you dare to say it? Could it be, this is a scheme set up by your immortal palace?" The other Jinkong also laughed and said, "Old man Tai-Bai, if you can't tell, then just admit it. Why are you deliberately mystifying things here? I heard that Immortal Palace's immortal Emperor Go Qin has a clear sky mirror that can search the entire world. Presumably, that thing can tell who is the real Jinkong. When His Majesty Immortal Emperor Go Yi makes a move, I can see it clearly." Tai-Bai Jinxing said proudly. "If that is the case, Lord Tai-Bai Jinxing." One Jinkong could not help but plead, "Tell me, who is the real Jinkong? If I am the real one, then why didn't I kill that guy? This old man has already said that the two of you are both real and fake." Tai-Bai Jinxing sneered, "Thunder Sound Temple actually did this in Hidden Immortal Continent. I don't know what their intentions are. If that is the case, then why should I expose them? Let them deal with it themselves." "Damn it, damn it." That Jinkong shouted, "In this world, it is either real or fake. How can there be real and fake? I am the real Jinkong. How can he be the real Jinkong? Truth and falsehood, falsehood and falsehood, in your mouth, it's actually so profound. The heavens still exist." "That's right, that's right." The other Jinkong also mocked. "Since you know the truth, why don't you say it? It will also let us know who is the true Confucian scripture master." Sunlay. Tai-Bai Jinxing completely ignored the two Jinkongs and ordered, "Take 4 patrol officers with you and protect Chuanzong well. Don't let anything go wrong." This subordinate understands. One of the patrol envoys replied and flew down to the thatched cottage with 4 other patrol envoys. At this moment, one of them, Jin Kong, was no longer as impatient as before. He looked on coldly without saying a word. Sun Hong. Tai Bai Jinxing ordered, send a message and ask the Thunder Temple's guardian Heavenly King and Namo Wise Manjushri to come back. Tai Bai Jinxing enunciated the word please very loudly, as if he was angry. Yes. One of the patrol envoys replied and was about to take out a communication object from his waist. At this moment, Tai Bai Jinxing rolled his eyes and said with a smile, Namo Wise Manjushri is a famous bodhisattva of the Thunder Temple. If he doesn't come back after receiving the message, our immortal palace will be guilty of disrespect. Forget it. Sun Hong, go and ask them. I believe they won't be in a hurry to return to the Thunder Temple. Yes, my lord. Sun Hong agreed, and thousands of lights and shadows appeared around her. These lights and shadows twisted and extended toward the East Sea along with the great pillar of Qi. Damn it, damn it, damn it. Seeing Sun Hong fly away, the 2 Jin Kongs shouted in irritation and waved their magic wands. I'll beat you to death, you damned imposter. Crackle crackle. The 2 Jin Kongs began to fight again. However, because there were several inspectors in the sky who had sealed the space, the 2 Jin Kongs could only fight at an altitude of several thousand feet. They could no longer freely descend. Amitba. Seeing the 5 patrol envoys descending and protecting the thatched cottage, Chun Zong hurriedly walked out of the thatched cottage and bowed. This poor monk has something important to tell you. Sun Lei didn't dare to be negligent. He hurriedly descended and returned the greeting. Master, are you hungry? I'll immediately ask the Earth Lord to bring some vegetarian food here. Amitba, this poor monk is talking about the 2 Jin Kongs. Chun Zong pulled Mao Chao and said, this child can tell who is this poor monk's true disciple. Ah. How is that possible? Sun Lei was shocked. These 2 fire apes look exactly the same and their divine abilities are also the same. Even I can't tell them apart. How can this little girl of the mortal realm tell them apart? Amitba, I'm ashamed to say this. A bitter expression appeared on Chun Zhang's face. He said, it's this poor monk's fault. My disciple Jin Kong accidentally killed Mao Chao's parents in order to subdue demons and devils. Sigh. Amitba, Amitba. Sun Lei seemed to have understood and said softly, the power of hatred is too strong. Master, please wait for a moment. After a while, Sun Lei returned and said softly, Lord Tai Bai Jinxing already knows about this. Master, you don't have to care about this matter. We'll know in a while. Chun Zong was puzzled. However, he knew that he was just a mortal. He put his palms together and said, Amitba, then I'll have to trouble you, benefactors. Then, Chun Zong brought Mao Chao back to the thatched cottage and waited for the truth to come out. After about an hour, the 2 Jin Kongs were tired. Just as they were about to stop, a Buddhist light appeared in the distant sky and the sea. Amidst the chanting of sutras, a Buddhist cloud seemed to be moving slowly, but it flew quickly without leaving a trace. It appeared in front of everyone's eyes and immediately appeared in front of them. A mocking look appeared in Tai Bai Jinxing's eyes as he nodded slightly at the inspectors. As the inspectors nodded, they raised their hands and waved. Hundreds of inscription chains appeared and sealed off the space within a few thousand feet. No one could see what was going on inside. Then, Tai Bai Jinxing waved the horsetail whisk in his hand and teleported to the front. He raised his hand and saluted, Greetings, Manjushri. We've only parted for a few hours. Now, I have to trouble Manjushri to come back. I'm really sorry. Manjushri smiled and hurriedly returned the salute. Benefactor, you're too polite. We're all waiting for the Sutra of Nirvana to be completed successfully. It's nothing for me to fly back and forth a few times. I just don't know. Benefactor, do you have something important to say? Saying this, Manjushri looked at the sealed space and was puzzled. Behind him, several heavenly guardians of the Buddhist sect also glared at the inspectors and finally fixed their eyes on Sun Hong. Sun Hong shrugged and flew to Tai Bai Jinxing's side. He only said that Tai Bai Jinxing had something important to say. He didn't mention anything about the two Jin Kongs. Bodhisattva, you really don't know. Tai Bai Jinxing smiled again and asked meaningfully. Manjushri shook his head. I really don't know what you have to say. Please say it clearly. Bodhisattva. Tai Bai Jinxing frowned and said unhappily, the matter has already come to this point. Why are you still hiding it? I've already found something strange. If I say it out, Mahavirakana World Venerable's face will not look good. Benefactor. Manjushri was even more puzzled. He raised his hand and pointed at the sealed space. I really don't understand. Is it the strange thing that Shurjin said? Indeed. Tai Bai Jinxing saw Manjushri's reaction and felt a little nervous. After answering, he asked tentatively, Bodhisattva really doesn't know what's inside. I really don't know. Please enlighten me. Manjushri nodded and answered. Okay. Tai Bai Jinxing smiled faintly and ordered, open the space and invite Manjushri Bodhisattva to take a look. Yes. Everyone nodded and waved their hands. All the inscription chains were withdrawn, revealing the two Jin Kongs in the space. Ah! Manjushri was shocked. Why are there two Jin Kongs? Yes. Tai Bai Jinxing smiled. There are two Jin Kongs. That's why I don't know which one to choose. I specially invite Manjushri Bodhisattva to guide me. Bodhisattva, Bodhisattva. The two Jin Kongs immediately jumped out of the space and flew to Manjushri Bodhisattva. They bowed and said, Jin Kongs greet Bodhisattva. Unfortunately, after saying one sentence, the two Jin Kongs shouted again, I am the real Jin Kongs. He is the fake Jin Kongs. You are the fake Jin Kongs. I am the real Jin Kongs. The other Jin Kongs shouted with the same voice. Roar! As he spoke, the two Jin Kongs roared and started fighting again. Manjushri Bodhisattva frowned and put his palms together. He asked, Amitabha. Benefactor, which one is the real Jin Kongs? I can't tell. Tai Bai Jinxing smiled. Otherwise, I wouldn't have asked Bodhisattva to return. Benefactor, didn't you find something fishy? Manjushri Bodhisattva said unhappily. Fishy is fishy. The truth is the truth. Tai Bai Jinxing smiled and said, I can only find something fishy. As for the truth, I'm afraid only the Buddhist faction can find it. Hearing this, Manjushri Bodhisattva understood and said, Amitabha. Benefactor, you are overthinking. There must be some misunderstanding. My Layin temple has always done things openly. It is impossible for us to do anything behind the scenes. Moreover, Chuanzong just brought his disciple back to the hidden immortal mainland. How could my Layin temple do something so obvious? This fake Jin Kongs must be from the demon race. Although Manjushri Bodhisattva said firmly, Tai Bai Jinxing was still skeptical. He nodded and said, Bodhisattva, I can believe in the world venerable. But these two Jin Kongs. Hee. Bodhisattva, please use your divine power and we will know. Chapter 45-73. Amitabha. Manjushri nodded slightly and raised his hand without hesitation. Swoosh. A spot of Buddha's light appeared out of thin air and quickly spread below Manjushri. In the blink of an eye, it covered the space where the two Jinkongs were fighting. As the Buddha's light fell, countless Sanskrit chants were heard and the sky was covered. The Sanskrit chants were blocked and the Sanskrit chants fell into the ears of the two Jinkongs. It was so painful that the two Jinkongs threw away their magic wands and covered their ears with their hands. They rolled in the air in pain. Then, Manjushri raised his foot and stepped on the Buddha's light. In the ripples of the Buddha's light, there were countless phantoms. In the phantoms, there were heavenly dragons, Buddhist kingdoms, and thousands of men and women. The phantoms fell on the two Jinkongs and an indescribable color appeared. The color faded and disappeared in the Buddha's light. Only two black and white fire apes were left in the space. Amitabha. Manjushri was surprised. He looked at Tai-Bai Jinxing and asked curiously, "How is that possible? Are they really two fire apes that look exactly the same?" "Bodhisattva, you've underestimated the power of that monster." Tai-Bai Jinxing smiled and said, "If the ordinary heavenly feet could see through his true appearance, why did you send me here? These inspectors from the Immortal Palace could kill the fake Jinkongs." "I understand." Manjushri already understood what Tai-Bai Jinxing meant. He nodded and used his right hand to pinch flower-pinching finger. He pointed at the light behind his head. 2 drops of golden light flew out from the light. Behind the golden light, there were tens of thousands of strands of faith. Swoosh! The 2 drops of golden light fell slowly. Wherever they passed, the void collapsed. Countless Buddhist kingdoms were hidden in the Buddha's light. However, after the Buddha's light passed by, the Buddhist kingdoms were annihilated. Indescribable waves came out from the annihilation and fell on the 2 black and white fire apes. When the 2 drops of golden light fell, the 2 fire apes emitted Buddha's light again. It was so bright that even Tai-Bai Jinxing couldn't see what was going on inside. However, Tai-Bai Jinxing heard Manjushri exclaim, "How? How is this possible?" Amitabha. Along with Manjushri's scream, there were many strange phenomena in the sky. Flowers fell from the void, and countless chanting sounds came from the void. Rays of Buddha's light condensed into crystal objects as thick as a child's arm and fell into the light behind Manjushri's head. As the Buddha's light and flowers fell, Manjushri's golden body became bigger and bigger, and the light became more and more dazzling. Great wish fulfilled. Tai-Bai Jinxing was even more surprised. He didn't understand what a fake Jinkong had to do with Manjushri Bodhisattva's great wish. However, there was more than surprise in his eyes. At this moment, within the Thunderclap Temple, the 10,000 Buddhas were listening to his lecture. Suddenly, the Mahavirakana Buddha Lord, whose mouth was blooming with Buddhist lotuses, shuddered, and Buddhist lights radiated from his body. Countless heavenly flowers fell from the sky of the Thunderclap Temple and bloomed in front of the Lord. Namo Amitabha. As the Mahavirakana Buddha Lord chanted, he turned to look at the Dipankara Archaic Buddha Lord, who had his eyes closed, and transmitted his voice to him, "Senior apprentice brother, did you sense it?" "Amitabha, Lord of the world, I saw it." The Dipankara Archaic Buddha Lord opened his eyes and replied with a neutral expression, "Ananda has appeared." Sigh, now that he has appeared. The Mahavirakana Buddha Lord sighed and said, "It's still too late." Amitabha, it's still too late, and it's still too early. It doesn't matter if it's sooner or later. The Dipankara Archaic Buddha Lord said and closed his eyes again. The Mahavirakana Buddha Lord didn't stop transmitting his voice to the Dipankara Archaic Buddha Lord. The Thunderclap Temple was still filled with heavenly flowers, and no one knew what had happened. Only the Mahavirakana Buddha Lord, who had concealed himself within the void, frowned slightly, as if he was about to wake up from his meditation. Looking at the shore of the East Sea, the Manjushri Bodhisattva's scream faded away, and the Buddhist lights disappeared. The phenomenon of great wish fulfilled also disappeared instantly. The Manjushri Bodhisattva retracted his foot from the air. With a puzzled expression, his gaze landed on Jinkong. How is it? Seeing that the Manjushri Bodhisattva's surprise didn't seem to be fake, Taibai Jinxing smiled and asked, "Isn't this a little strange? This mystery. Should the Thunderclap Temple be the one to uncover it?" Amitba. The Manjushri Bodhisattva chanted and said, "Benefactor, it's a long story. However, I can swear on the name of Buddha that I don't know about this, and the Thunderclap Temple doesn't know about this either." Then, "Bodhisattva, what should we do?" Taibai Jinxing pushed the decision to the Manjushri Bodhisattva. However, the Manjushri Bodhisattva didn't hesitate at all and said, "I can't make the decision. I still have to return to the Thunderclap Temple and kowtow to the Mahavirakana Buddha Lord." "No way." Taibai Jinxing was surprised. "It's that serious." "It's that serious." The Manjushri Bodhisattva affirmed. "Bodhisattva." Before Taibai Jinxing could say anything, Jinkong shouted, "With your abilities, you should know who's real and who's fake, right?" This. The Manjushri Bodhisattva was a little troubled. After a while, he replied, "Amitba, real is fake, fake is real. When real is fake, the fake is real. Although I can see through it, I can't see through it. What can I do?" "Bullshit." This Jinkong scolded. "One is an important minister of the immortal palace, the other is a bodhisattva of the Buddhist sect. Both of them can see who's real and who's fake. However, neither of them dares to admit it. One of them says real is fake, fake is real. The other says real is fake, fake is real. Then you tell me who's real and who's fake." "That's right." Taibai Jinxing nodded and said, "Real is fake, fake is real." The Manjushri Bodhisattva also shook his head and said, "You are wrong. Real is fake, fake is real." Heavens! At this moment, Jinkong still didn't dare to call him master. He could only throw himself into the air and cried with tears streaming down his face, "In this world, what kind of justice is there? Even the immortal and Buddhist sects don't dare to say the truth. I really don't know. In this world, how can there be such a clear distinction between black and white?" Seeing Jinkong, the Manjushri Bodhisattva felt much better. He chanted and said, "Amitba, Jinkong, there is no need for you to say any more. When we reach the Lane Temple, the truth will naturally be revealed." "That's right, you fake. Why are you crying here? When we reach the Lane Temple, in front of my Buddha, everything will be revealed." The other Jinkong stood in the air and sneered. "You fake." Jinkong was furious. He waved his magic wand and pounced towards the other Jinkong. The other Jinkong also said angrily, "You are the fake." With that, the two Jinkongs started fighting again. "Amitba." The Manjushri Bodhisattva chanted and waved his kasaya, capturing the two Jinkongs in the air. He turned his head and said to Taibai Jinxing, "I will have to trouble Benefactor to stay here. I will be back soon. Take care, take care." Taibai Jinxing knew the importance of this matter. He cupped his hands and said, "With this old man here to protect Chuanzong, nothing will happen." Just as he said that, woo-woo, a gust of evil wind blew. In the East Sea, a huge pig demon flew out from the sea and flew towards them. This pig demon was naturally Jinjia. He scanned with his essence will and immediately realized that something was wrong. He blocked the Manjushri Bodhisattva and the other heavenly guardians. He shouted, Isn't this Manjushri Bodhisattva? Why do you have the time to come here from the Lane Temple? Could it be that you saw that we have been working hard in the sutra-seeking state of bliss and wanted to invite us to have a vegetarian meal?" Amitba. Facing Jinjia, who was stronger than him, the Manjushri Bodhisattva stopped. He clasped his hands together and said, "The sutra-seeking state of bliss is in trouble. I am here to subdue this demon. This demon is of great importance. I cannot make the decision. I can only bring them back to the Lain temple and ask Mahavirakana of the world to personally issue a Buddhist decree." Damn it. Hearing that the sutra-seeking state of bliss was in trouble, Jinjia immediately jumped up and said, "Who did this? 3 monster kings just came. I fought them off with great difficulty. I chased them for several days to find out their background, but they still ran away. I didn't expect that they would create a diversion. Oh, by the way, Bodhisattva, how is my master?" "Chuanzang is fine." Manjushri Bodhisattva didn't dare to say more as he was afraid that Jinjia would cause trouble. He said hurriedly, "He is now under the protection of Tai Bai Jinxing, the inspector and the 4 seasons meritorious ministers of the Immortal Palace. He is very safe. I won't talk more with you. Go and protect Chuanzang now." "Yes, Bodhisattva." Seeing that the Manjushri Bodhisattva was anxious, Jinjia didn't dare to say more. He bowed and watched the Manjushri Bodhisattva leave. However, after flying for a few miles, Jinjia suddenly shouted, "Bodhisattva, tell Mahavirakana of the world not to cause any trouble. Fighting and killing every day. You don't look like a monk at all." Manjushri Bodhisattva's body swayed in the air. He said a few words to the guardian king and then turned into Buddha's light and left. When the Manjushri Bodhisattva couldn't see him anymore, Jinjia stuck out his tongue and shouted, "Oh my! What happened?" Even the Manjushri Bodhisattva came. "I have to go and take a look. I don't want my master to know that I sneaked out to sleep." When Jinjia came back, the inspector and the 4 seasons meritorious ministers were relieved and didn't dare to stop him. After Jinjia greeted Tai Bai Jinxing, they put him into the thatched cottage. Seeing that Jinhan and the dragon horse Jinfeng were outside the thatched cottage and that Chao Chao and Chuanzang were inside the cottage, Jinjia was immediately angry and shouted, "Master, where did that damn fire ape go? I was just chasing after the 3 demon kings. How dare he neglect his duty and cause master to suffer such a great fright." Chapter 45-74. Amitba, Jinjia, don't worry. Chuanzang knew that Namo wise Manjushri had taken away the 2 Zhengkongs, so he was relieved and said, "Wait for me to tell you what happened." "Okay, please tell me, master." Jinjia listened and sat down on the ground again. His shrunken body still looked clumsy. After Chuanzang told him about the real and fake Jinkong, Jinjia jumped up from the ground and shouted, "How is this possible? There's a fire ape that looks exactly like Jinkong." Even Tai Bai Jinxing and Nanwa Wisdom Manjushri couldn't tell the difference. That's how it should be. Chuanzang was naturally kept in the dark. He pointed at Chang Chao and said, "Chang Chao can tell, so I told you to wait until you came back. Sigh, master, those 3 demon kings are really powerful." Jinjia quickly denied responsibility and said, "I chased them for a long time but couldn't catch up to them. I'm sorry for making you suffer." "Amitba, it doesn't matter if I suffer or not." Chuanzang replied, "Just don't let Jinkong suffer. Although he's a bit cruel and lacks the compassion of a Buddhist disciple, he's doing it for my own good. I'd rather suffer in his place." "Don't worry, master." Jinjia waved his hand and said, "This matter has been brought up to Vairocana revered Buddha. He'll definitely clear second junior brother's name. That's for the best." Chuanzang nodded, but then he became worried and said, "However, I'm still worried." "What are you worried about, master?" Jinjia smiled and said, "In the 3 continents, other than..." Jinjia glanced at the sky and lowered his voice, other than immortal Emperor Go-Chin and the great saints of the Great Sacred Hall, who else can be stronger than Vairocana, revered Buddha? I hope so. Chun Zong nodded and looked at Chang Chao, saying, Chang Chao is hungry. Jin Jia, go get some vegetarian food and come back. Yes, master. Jin Jia replied. Then, he turned around and shouted, Gong Chao of the Four Seasons, quickly come out. Hearing Jin Jia's shout, Gong Chao hesitated and glanced at Tai Bai Jinxing, who was sitting cross-legged in the sky. Boom! Suddenly, Gong Chao felt a sharp pain in his head, as if 10,000 horses were trampling over him. His body fell from the sky involuntarily, and Jinjia's cold snort was heard amidst the thundering hooves. I'm calling you, where are you looking? Yes. The Gong Chao of the Four Seasons didn't dare to be negligent. He quickly landed and bowed. Grandmaster, what are your orders? Tai Bai Jinxing sat cross-legged in midair with his eyes closed as if he had not seen anything. After all, this was a demonic beast that was on the verge of reaching the 9th grade of essence force. Even someone as powerful as Tai Bai Jinxing did not want to bother with him. My master is hungry. Hurry up and go beg for alms. Jin Jia ordered. Oh. The Temple of the Four Seasons paused and looked around. There were indeed a few patrol envoys standing guard at the side of the thatched cottage. They could only respond and move into the distance. This matter is a little strange. Jin Jia took out a strand of seaweed from somewhere and held it in his mouth. He lay down, crossed his legs, and shook his trotters. He looked at the roof of the thatched cottage and thought to himself, there's actually a demonic beast that can transform into a fire ape. What is this demonic beast trying to do? Could it be that he wants to replace Jin Kong? Damn it, if it was Jin Han or Jin Feng, I wouldn't care. But this is Jin Kong, and Daoist Shao mentioned him before. If anything happens to Jin Kong, Daoist Shao will skin me alive. But, it's fine. Now, everything will be handed over to Mahavirakana. I'm sure Daoist Shao won't blame me when he finds out. While Jin Jia was worried, Namo Wise Manjushri raised his hand and pointed at the light behind his head. A Buddhist light gushed out from the light and surged into the void. The void was torn apart layer by layer. As the void overlapped, a majestic Lain temple with overflowing Buddhist light vaguely appeared in the void. As soon as the Buddhist light fell into the Lain temple, the void immediately collapsed and everything disappeared. A teleportation channel condensed from Buddhist light appeared under Namo Wise Manjushri's feet. Amitabha. Namo Wise Manjushri looked at the Buddhist light condensed into golden runes that flowed around the channel like tadpoles. He chanted Buddhist names and stepped on the channel. Woo woo. A strange wind whistled in the space around the channel. Namo Wise Manjushri's figure disappeared into the channel, and the channel also disappeared into the void. Revered One. In the Lain temple, Mahavirakana was still chanting. Amidst the heavenly flowers, the guardian heavenly king reported, Namo Wise Manjushri has an important matter to report. Namo Amitabha. Mahavirakana's face showed mercy. He closed his mouth and said, Buddhism is fate. My Buddha will not help those who are not fated. Dharma is also fate. Dharma will not be taught to those who are not fated. Today's chanting ends here. Amitabha. Disciples thank Revered One for your teachings. 10,000 Buddhas chanted Buddhist names and bowed. Summon Manjushri. Mahavirakana's eyebrows did not raise as he ordered lightly. Namo Wise Manjushri flew into the Lain temple and hurriedly bowed, disciple greets Revered One. Amitabha. Mahavirakana smiled, is the handover of the East Sea smooth? The sutra seeking extreme bliss is coming to an end. I think the Immortal Palace will also pay attention to it. Revered One. Namo wise Manjushri thought for a moment and replied, the handover of the sutra seeking extreme bliss went very smoothly. Disciple and the guardian heavenly king handed everything over to Tai Bai Jinxing and the many inspectors. Very good. Mahavirakana nodded. Since that's the case, Manjushri, is there anything urgent that made you rush back to the Lain temple? Namo wise Manjushri looked at the Buddhas in the Lain temple and pondered for a moment. Then, he told Revered One about the real and fake Shin Kong. Finally, he said, Revered One, please no. Disciple, can't make a decision. That's why I brought both Shin Kong here. Revered One, please make a decision. Oh. Mahavirakana's curiosity was piqued and he asked, I've seen this Shin Kong before. He's only a fire ape with 4th grade elemental energy. Who would transform into his appearance and impersonate him? Moreover, he's a demon with 4th grade elemental energy. Can't you tell? At this point, the Mahavirakana revered Buddha's gaze froze. Then, the mirror behind his head suddenly spun rapidly. In an instant, countless pillars of Buddhist light rushed into the void. The Mahavirakana revered Buddha said mercifully, I understand now. Invite the 2 Shin Kongs out. Yes, Revered One. Namo wise Manjushri did not dare to delay. He swung his kasaya and the 2 Shin Kong fell out. The 2 Shin Kong landed. When they looked around, tears welled up in their eyes. They knelt in front of the 9th-grade lotus platform and said, Revered One, disciple has escorted Xuanzang's master to seek the sutra in nirvana and experienced countless difficulties. Now, we've just left the Eastern Sea territory and entered the hidden immortal continent. I never expected that there would be a daring demon who dared to disguise himself as disciple and tried to steal disciples' merit of seeking the sutra. Although Tai Bai Jinxing and Manjushri Bodhisattva could see clearly, they did not dare to make a rash judgment. They only said what was real and what was fake was real. These disciples did not understand. Now, disciple has rushed to the front of Revered One. I hope that Revered One can uphold justice for disciple and clear disciple's name. Venerable Manjushri, do you know why you can't make a decision? Mahavirakana's Revered One asked with a smile. Namo wise Manjushri was startled. He hurriedly bowed and said, Revered One, please enlighten me. Although you are knowledgeable in Buddhism, you don't understand cause and effect. You only know how to do things, but you don't know the cause and effect of things. Mahavirakana's Revered One replied indifferently, Do you not know the cause of the sutra in nirvana? Do you not know the cause of your great ambition? First, there was the matter of seeking the sutra, then there was the person seeking the sutra. Do you know who is real and who is fake? Namo wise Manjushri revealed a smile and nodded, disciple understands. The cause is real and the effect is fake. The cause is real and the effect is fake. Then, who do you think is real and who is fake? Mahavirakana's Revered One asked with a smile. Naturally, this Shin Kong is fake. With that, Namo wise Manjushri pointed at one of the Shin Kong and said seriously. That Shin Kong shouted and jumped up. He said furiously, Bullshit Bodhisattva. How can you reverse black and white? I'm the real Shin Kong, he's the fake Shin Kong. Amitabha, Shin Kong, you're real and fake. Do you know? Mahavirakana's Revered One chuckled. I don't want to listen, I don't want to listen, I don't want to listen. Shin Kong waved his hand impatiently and said, I can't be bothered to talk nonsense with you baldies. I'm going to find someone who understands. Someone who understands can be the judge for me. With that, Shin Kong moved his body and was about to fly away. The other Shin Kong laughed and pointed at that Shin Kong and said, See, I already said that you're fake and you're still trying to be brave. Where can you go now? Who can help you? Damn it. You fake. When that Jin Kong saw that Jin Kong mocked him, he was already furious. Seeing that he had nowhere to run, he waved his magic wand and smashed it at the other Jin Kong. You dare to show killing intent in front of Buddha, and you still say that you're not the fake Jin Kong. That Jin Kong was not afraid at all. He looked on as the magic wand fell and said, "You're not worthy of sutra-seeking nirvana." Amitabha. Mahavirakhana's revered one chanted and pointed his finger. That Jin Kong's magic wand fell to the ground and he was unable to move. Compassion appeared in the eyes of Mahavirakhana's revered one and he said, "Jin Kong, don't be anxious. Listen to this seat's explanation. When you understand, you'll know why you're fake and he's real." Chapter 45-75. Smack. Before the Mahavirakhana revered Buddha could finish his words, Jin Kong waved his magic wand and hit Jin Kong's head. Under the magic wand, this Jin Kong couldn't move. He was glaring at the Mahavirakhana revered Buddha, but he didn't expect Jin Kong to suddenly attack. He didn't have the strength to fight back at all. Seeing the magic wand coming at him like a huge mountain, this Jin Kong's eyes almost popped out of their sockets. In the blink of an eye, thousands of lights and shadows flashed before his eyes. There were humans and monsters that he had eaten alive, humans that he had burned to death with his flames, and even monsters that he had killed with his magic wand. In the end, all the lights and shadows converged to form Xiao Hua's figure, an indomitable giant that stood between the heavens and the earth. Jin Kong cried out mournfully, "Master." His tone was filled with reluctance, unwillingness, awakening, and regret. However, all of his emotions were turned into nothingness under the magic wand. This Jin Kong didn't even have the time to scream. His brain exploded, and he died in front of the rank 9 Buddhist lotus. Following that, a primordial spirit flew out from Jin Kong's body. Jin Kong's eyes were sharp, and he waved his magic wand again. The Mahavirakhana revered Buddha cried out in alarm. He raised his hand and imprisoned Jin Kong. He said angrily, "Ah! Amitabha! Jin Kong, how can you kill without permission?" Revered one. Jin Kong giggled. This fake disturbed the sutra seeking extreme bliss and wanted to take away my merits. How can I let him go? Moreover, since he dared to be so arrogant in front of the revered one, he must have something to rely on. If I don't kill him, won't I be destroying the prestige of Buddhism? Revered one, did you not hear me? This fake even called me master before he died. This so-called master must be the mastermind behind all this. A rare trace of anger appeared in the Mahavirakhana revered Buddha's eyes. He stared at Jin Kong for a few breaths of time before he said dejectedly, "Amitabha. Jin Kong, your killing intent is too strong. Although you have contributed greatly by escorting Chuanzang, you have also broken many rules. I hope that this is the last time you break the precepts. In the future, you have to take this as a warning and cultivate properly. Otherwise, the sutra praying in nirvana will be for naught in the end." As the Mahavirakhana World Venerable finished his words, thunderous roars sounded around the Thunder Temple. Many places in the Thunder Temple collapsed, showing signs of decline. Countless Buddhist kingdoms were rapidly annihilated, and countless men and women were wailing in pain in the annihilation. Furthermore, the Buddhist light around the Mahavirakhana World Venerable and the entire Thunder Temple was also declining. Billions of heavenly flowers fell from the void of the Thunder Temple. As they fell, they withered and turned into dust. Master. When Jin Kong saw the change in the Thunder Sound Temple, he couldn't help but be shocked. When his gaze landed on the Mahavirakhana revered Buddha, he was even more shocked. He couldn't help but cry out, "Aw! Amitabha, the revered Buddha is, see." When Jin Kong saw the change, so did the 10,000 Buddhas and Bodhisattvas. Shocked voices sounded from all over the Thunder Sound Temple. Amitabha, excellent, excellent. Half of the Vairocana Buddha golden body that was previously radiating light rapidly withered as the Buddha's light faded. In just a moment, it had turned into a withered grayish-black color. Although there was still some Buddha's light flowing on it, the Buddha's light was also mixed with a grayish-black color. Even in the light condensed from the power of faith behind the Mahavirakana World Venerable's head, half of the light turned pitch black. Namo Amitabha. Namo Daxing Samantabhadra Bodhisattva stood before the Buddhist lotus and couldn't help but put his palms together. Revered Buddha, what's going on? My Buddha. Is there a tribulation? Amitabha, tribulation is precepts, precepts are also desires. Desires can be fate, and fate can be the result. The benevolence on the Mahavirakana World Venerable's face didn't change. Then, he said to Jinkong, do you understand? Amitabha, Jinkong threw away his devil wand, knelt before the 9 grades Buddhist lotus. He said respectfully, I'll remember your words, revered Buddha. From today onwards, I won't commit any more murders. I'll do my best to escort Chuanzang back to the Longevity Town and erect the golden body of the Namo Amitabha Bodhisattva on the River Tide Ridge. Go. The Mahavirakana World Venerable flicked his sleeves and said, Thank you, revered Buddha. I'll take my leave now. Jinkong bowed. After he stood up, he stared at the Mahavirakana World Venerable's withering glory golden body for a while. Then, he lowered his head and left. The guardian heavenly king brought him back to the East Sea. For a moment, the 10,000 Buddhas looked at the withered golden body of the Mahavirakana World Venerable and didn't know what to say. Senior apprentice brother. The Mahavirakana World Venerable asked in a low voice, Am I wrong? Amitabha, there's no wrong, and there's no right. There's no right or wrong in this world. The Dipankara archaic Buddha World Venerable chanted, Jinkong is wrong for being too cruel. What's wrong is, the timing of the Nirvana scripture praying was wrong. Namo Maitreya Buddha. At this moment, beside the Mahavirakana World Venerable, the Maitreya Buddha World Venerable's golden body appeared from the void. Other than benevolence, there was also a hint of anger on his face. World Venerable, I think, you're wrong. Amitabha, what wrong have I done? The Mahavirakana World Venerable raised his head. He didn't look at the Mahavirakana World Venerable. Instead, he glanced at the 10,000 Buddhas and asked in a low voice. The World Venerable's Buddhist mantras are well versed in the heavens and the earth. You're the number 1 person in our Buddhism. The Mahavirakana World Venerable glanced at the 10,000 Buddhas and said, In this world, when it comes to seeing through the mundane world and karma, I'm afraid no other Buddhas would dare to compare with the World Venerable. However, even if the World Venerable has reached the golden body multiple transformations and is close to the limit, he's still a distance away from attaining the Buddha fruit. Moreover, according to my opinion, even if one's Buddha position is eternally solidified and attains the 9 transformations golden body, one would only be the lord of a region and the ruler of a world. Following the heavens and earth, reincarnation, and myriad eras, it still can't be compared. The so-called karma is the long river of time and space. Any cause may seem small, but the effect it causes is subtle. No one can forcefully disturb karma, not even my Buddha. The World Venerable saw that the karma of this world had already been formed, yet he still had distracting thoughts and wanted to interfere with karma. Isn't that wrong? Amitabha. The Mahavirakana World Venerable chanted but didn't answer. Namo Maitreya Buddha, since the creation of the World Venerable Buddhism sect, countless Buddhas have been diligently pursuing the truth of Buddhism for countless years. The Mahavirakana World Venerable continued. However, our Buddhism sect is now divided into 10 sects, namely the Attainment sect, the Possession sect, the Nature sect, the Harmony sect, the Tiantai sect, the Virtuous Head sect, the Zen sect, the Pure Land sect, the Vinaya sect, and the Tantra sect. Other than these 10 sects, there are countless smaller branches. Is their Buddhism sect the same as our Buddhism truth? In this disciple's opinion, not necessarily. This disciple thinks that our Buddhism sect's disciples are now burdened by their physical bodies. They have abandoned everything in their physical bodies and don't want to farm or fish. They only rely on offerings. If we Buddhas are pure of heart and few desires, it's fine. We can make a living with simple tea and plain food. However, there aren't many Buddhas who are pure of heart. This inevitably leads to misunderstandings. This is also the fatal point of the Confucian cultivators attacking our Buddhism sect. The so-called vermin is nothing more than this. This disciple has seen the Buddhas in the hidden immortal continent where a Buddhism sect was established. They supported themselves and didn't need to solicit alms. Similarly, they could use the property of the temple to support the old, the weak, the sick, and the disabled. They really did achieve widows, and loneliness. Then, Namo Maitreya Buddha spoke of his thoughts and his recent enlightenment. There was no lack of inconsistencies with the Pure Land world. Amitabha. Junior apprentice brother, what do you mean by this? The Mahavirakana Buddha Lord listened quietly. In the end, the Buddhas were stunned and asked again. The mistake of the Buddha Lord has already been made. Moreover, the impact is severe. The Mahavirakana Buddha Lord's gaze showed no fear. He looked at the Mahavirakana Buddha Lord and said, "This disciple feels that this mistake is detrimental to the development of our Buddhism sect in the Pure Land world. Therefore, I hope that the Mahavirakana Buddha Lord and the Dipankara Archaic Buddha Lord will reconsider, only reconsider." Asked the Mahavirakana Buddha Lord. Our Buddhism sect's words don't lie in words. It doesn't lie in words. Junior apprentice brother has spoken for so long. I already know what he's thinking. Mahavirakana Buddha Lord. The Dipankara Archaic Buddha Lord, who had been silent for a long time, finally spoke. The connection between the Pure Land world and the Buddhism kingdom has been severed for a long time. Not only is the flow of karma blocked, the cycle of reincarnation is also in chaos. Junior apprentice brother's vindication, the birth of the Namo Mahavadi Samantabhadra, and the mystery of the Namo Mahavadi Samantabhadra Bodhisattva's voice of the world. All of these revealed a trace of chaos in the Buddhism kingdom. Also, the mystery of the true and false chastity is also the tip of the iceberg. With so many entanglements, let alone junior apprentice brother and me, even the Mahavirakana Buddha Lord can't see clearly. Therefore, the Lord's judgment. At this point, the Dipankara Archaic Buddha Lord stopped. Half a teardrop flowed out of his eyes, and his originally miserable face became even more sorrowful. Whether the Buddha nature is more than the human nature, or whether the human nature is more important than the Buddha nature, our Buddhism sect has never come to a conclusion. This disciple doesn't want to be entangled with the Lord any longer. The Mahavirakana Buddha Lord's expression was calm as water. He said calmly, however, if the Buddha nature is imposed on the human nature, using one's own benefits to overpower the Buddha's benefits, then the Buddha is also a devil. Not only is my Buddha the Mahavirakana Buddha Lord's Buddha, but I'm also the Dipankara Archaic Buddha Lord's Buddha and the Mahavirakana Buddha Lord's Buddha. I can't bear to see the Buddhas of the Pure Land world go astray. Junior apprentice brother, are you rebelling against the Thunderclap Temple? The Mahavirakana Buddha Lord wasn't surprised at all. He said calmly, Junior apprentice brother, don't forget that you've only been in my Thunderclap Temple for a few years. You don't even know the secrets of my Thunderclap Temple. Lord, it doesn't matter if it's a day or a moment. If you don't realize it now, so what if it's 10,000 years? The Thunderclap Temple isn't here, nor is it far away. The Thunderclap Temple is in this disciple's heart. The Mahavirakana Buddha Lord answered. As long as this disciple stays true to his heart, where isn't the Thunderclap Temple? Chapter 45-76. Junior Apprentice Brother. The Dipankara archaic Buddha's tears were already dripping down. Through the void, they transformed into countless rivers and flooded countless Buddhist kingdoms. An ancient voice resounded within the Thunder Monastery. Have you decided? Not bad. The Maitreya Buddha nodded firmly. Such a Buddha is not a disciple's laying temple. Such a Buddhist sect is also not a disciple's Buddhist sect. As the future Lord Buddha, I have to think about the future. Junior brother, do you think you can walk out of the Thunder Temple? The Dipankara archaic Buddha's world lord's voice carried a hint of threat. All of a sudden, a commotion broke out within the Thunder Sound Temple. The Maitreya Buddha smiled and raised his hand to slap his forehead. Boom! A Buddhist cloud gushed out with a Buddhist artifact floating in the cloud. 10,000 rays of Buddhist light soared into the sky as thousands of treasures surged. 7 Wonders Tree. The Dipankara archaic Buddha's world lord was shocked, while the myriad Buddha's expressions changed. Namo Maitreya Buddha. At that moment, 30% of the Buddhas, Bodhisattvas, and Arhats bowed in respect. Can I walk out of the Thunder Temple with the help of the Tree of 7 Wonders? The corners of Maitreya Buddha's mouth curled into a smile. Can this disciple use the 7 Wonders Tree to spread the Buddha's light across the 3 continents? Can this disciple use the 7 Wonders Tree to retrieve the distorted Buddha's light? Perhaps. The Dipankara archaic Buddha remained silent. Namo Amitabha. The Mahavirakana world venerated one looked at the wonderful tree of 7 treasures that was overflowing with treasure light. His withered face was also a little stunned, but he said benevolently, Junior brother, do you still remember the agreement we made that day? Of course I remember. Maitreya Buddha said curiously. Didn't you say that I have a heart tribulation? Disciple has cultivated a Buddhist heart and diligently cleaned the mirror. There was no demonic tribulation that came close to me. Amitabha. The Mahavirakana Buddha shook his head and said, I'm talking about your actions against the Thunder Temple, not your demonic tribulation. Namo Maitreya Buddha. Maitreya Buddha world honored one chanted the name of Buddha. After a moment of hesitation, he nodded and said, I understand. I will never do anything that goes against laying temple. However, before the revered one of the world understands, I am not willing to stay in the laying temple. I would like to bring a group of bodhisattvas to another place to cultivate. As for when to return to the laying temple, that will depend on when the revered one of the world can cultivate his golden body again. As he spoke, the Maitreya Buddha raised his hand and was about to take away Jin Kong's corpse and the soul entrenched in the Buddhist light. However, his hand moved and he stopped. He coldly looked at the Mahavirakana revered one and said, Revered one, this corpse should be left as a warning to the revered one. Furthermore, this disciple would like to ask the revered one of the world to properly preserve this corpse and soul so that he can give an account to his master in the future. What? Mahavirakana revered Buddha was suddenly stunned and asked curiously, Isn't his master, Namo Maitreya Buddha and revered one of the world can interfere with karma? Why can't others interfere with reincarnation? After the Maitreya Buddha finished speaking, he slowly got up. The 9-grade lotus platform below him also moved. The wonderful tree of 7 treasures above his head covered his golden body. A golden crack appeared in front of the Maitreya Buddha's head. The outline of a palace door appeared at the edge of the crack. Namo Maitreya Buddha. At this moment, a Buddhist chant resounded. Namo Maitreya Samantabhadra Bodhisattva moved his lotus platform and said, This disciple is willing to follow Namo Maitreya Buddha to cultivate outside. Namo Maitreya Buddha, this disciple is also willing to cultivate with you. At this moment, 40% of the Buddhas, bodhisattvas, arhats, and other Buddhas stood up and left their seats. Leaving is staying, and staying is also leaving. Cultivation has always been in the heart. The Maitreya Buddha chanted loudly and stepped into the palace door. Junior apprentice brother, where do you want to cultivate? The Dipankara archaic Buddha suddenly asked. Snowy mountain, small exquisite temple. A voice faintly resounded. Not only did the Maitreya Buddha's figure disappear, but the other Buddhas also disappeared, and the Buddhist lights were extinguished. After a while, the Mahavirakana revered Buddha's voice resounded again, all Buddhas, retreat. Yes, revered one of the world. It was still the respectful voice of the 10,000 Buddhas. However, this voice was much fainter and weaker, just like the withered heavenly flowers in the Thunder Sound Temple. Revered Buddha. The Dipankara archaic Buddha's voice resounded amidst the bleakness. I've been thinking about it for a long time, but I still couldn't figure out why the Maitreya Buddha's revered Buddha would have a heart tribulation. Previously, I thought that he had recklessly attained enlightenment, causing his foundation to be unstable. However, I didn't expect that the cause was actually Ananda. Yes, I. The Mahavirakana revered Buddha's mouth was filled with bitterness as he answered, I didn't expect it either. Then, who's Shin Kong's master? The Dipankara archaic Buddha asked as he looked at Shin Kong's corpse and soul. The Mahavirakana revered Buddha answered plainly, Senior apprentice brother, why do you need me to say it? Don't tell me you don't know. Sigh, who else could it be other than Daoist Shao, who has no origin and whose karma can't be detected? The Dipankara archaic Buddha sighed and said, this time, Ananda is in trouble. Since the revered Buddha is involved in this karma, he can't just ignore it. Fortunately, the Mahavirakana revered Buddha nodded slightly and said, although the Fortune Gate's disciples have cleansed the heaven and earth board, and the immortal palace's feathers have perished in the soaring Dragon Mountain range, Xiaohua is only a human Mahayana realm essence chi mid-stage 9th grade. He's still not enough to threaten my Thunder Sound Temple. Although the Maitreya Buddha has betrayed the Thunder Sound Temple, he still has the Thunder Sound Temple in his heart. Revered Buddha, you can't ignore his words. The Dipankara archaic Buddha advised, Revered Buddha, you still have to think about how to resolve this sudden karma. Namo Amitabha. I understand. The Mahavirakana revered Buddha nodded and raised his finger. A 5-colored crystal flew out from the Buddha lotus and landed on Jin Kong's soul. The soul struggled unyieldingly for a while before slowly falling into the crystal. Then, it was kept by the Mahavirakana revered Buddha's lotus platform. As for the corpse, the Mahavirakana revered Buddha also kept it into his lotus platform after some consideration. Seeing that the Mahavirakana revered Buddha had already made up his mind, the Dipankara archaic Buddha was originally very calm. However, he suddenly felt a slight change in the Thunder Sound Temple's karmic cycle. He couldn't help but look at the Mahavirakana revered Buddha in surprise and wanted to ask about it. However, before the Dipankara archaic Buddha could speak, the Mahavirakana revered Buddha calmly said, don't let others know. Silence is golden. Namo Dipankara archaic Buddha, Namo Amitabha, Namo Amitabha. A hint of surprise flashed across the Dipankara archaic Buddha's face. He put his palms together and chanted 3 Buddha names in a row. So that's how it is. Namo Amitabha's betrayal of the Thunder Sound Temple was something that had never happened in the pure land of ultimate bliss. However, the Thunder Sound Temple remained as silent as ever, as if it hadn't moved at all. When the Mahavirakana revered Buddha forcefully interfered with the karmic cycle and caused the Thunder Sound Temple's Buddha lights to fall, Chunzang, who was sitting cross-legged in a dilapidated thatched cottage by the East Sea, suddenly opened his eyes. Within his clear eyes, an extremely dim Buddha light suddenly appeared. As the Buddha light flashed by, Chunzang closed his eyes as well. However, within Chun Zhang's Naiwan Palace, boundless Buddha light appeared out of nowhere and illuminated the entire Naiwan Palace. Within the Buddha light, the golden radiance that was previously hidden within Chun Zhang's Naiwan Palace appeared with a whoosh. Within the golden radiance, the silhouette of another Buddha Lord's golden statue appeared. As soon as this golden statue appeared, it was already 9 feet tall. Moreover, below the 9 feet tall statue was a 9-grade lotus platform. Behind its head, a faint radiance flickered. These were the signs of the Buddha Lord's initial formation. Namo Amitabha. Shock appeared on Chun Zhang's face as he silently chanted Buddha's name in his heart. He sighed inwardly. Could it be that the message left within the golden radiance is real? However, I really don't know what exactly happened in the Thunder Sound Temple. Is this change a blessing or a tragedy? Is it a blessing or a curse? After an unknown period of time, a low voice could be heard outside the thatched cottage. Master, I'm back. Oh. Hearing this familiar voice, Chun Zhang's face lit up with joy. He hurriedly got up from the ground and walked out of the thatched cottage. Outside the cottage, the sky was bright. Jin Kong was still standing arrogantly in the distance. However, at this moment, there was an additional layer of joy on his face from surviving a calamity. In front of him, Jin Jia frowned and sized up Jin Kong. He didn't allow him to approach the thatched cottage. After Jin Jia left, Dragon Horse Jin Feng and Jin Han also hid far away, secretly on guard. Tai Bai Jinxing and the other people from the Immortal Palace were long gone. Clearly, they had already left when the Thunder Sound Temple's guardian king sent Jin Kong back. Jin Kong, what happened in the Thunder Sound Temple? Chun Zhang was somewhat anxious. He took a few steps forward and asked. Jin Jia raised his hand and blocked Chun Zhang. He said, Master, wait a moment. I keep feeling that there's something wrong with this Jin Kong. However, I can't see anything wrong with him. Let the grass come out and take a look. Oh. What's wrong? Chun Zhang was startled. He looked at Jin Kong and asked curiously. 2 Jin Kongs went to the Thunder Sound Temple and 1 returned. This is naturally the real Jin Kong. Mahavirakana world revered Buddha is perceptive. How can he not see which one is real and which one is fake? Eldest martial brother, don't worry. Jin Kong said loudly, that fake Jin Kong was already killed by me on the spot. Jin Kong's voice was extremely loud. It had already traveled into the thatched cottage. Sigh, Jin Kong. Chun Zhang grumbled, why did you break the vow to kill again? Although that fake Jin Kong was of the demon race and also interfered with our sutra seeking extreme bliss, it was also a type of merit. Perhaps he deserved to die, but you didn't have the authority to kill him. Since you broke the vow to kill, wouldn't you lose merit? What I told you before, why didn't you listen to me? That you're tuning into the LoveLore Library YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.